Hello there, and welcome on in to another episode of DCU Daily. Of course, as always, we start the show off with the news. Today in the news, we have lots to get into. The Captain America 4 premiere happened, reviews are out, first reactions are out. We have to talk about all of that stuff. There's a new full How to Train Your Dragon live action trailer, so we have to get into that. It looks nice, just a little preview of that. And then beyond that, of course, you have to dive into a ton of other news, more Harry Potter, TV show casting news potentially, or at least rumors or reports about, more A-listers who might be involved in that HBO TV series. And then beyond that, of course, we have to get into DCU Daily. As always, we have news about the WALLER show, Constantine 2, what's going on about the Puppy Bowl. The ratings came out. Did Warner Brothers get what they were looking for from there? We have to dive into a dynamic duo update. There's also some fun fan art about for the Flash and Robin from some fans who are really excited to see potentially those characters in the DCU. And I thought it was a really good fan art that might actually not be that far off of what we will potentially get. And then I'm sure we'll get into your comments along the way as well. So to do that and so much more, as always, we're gonna start things off with the news. So let's hit that intro and get things going.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see chords.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the needs now?
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
Oh, look at that. That's me again with the news. Lots to get into today, as always, as I was talking about before the intro. But to do that with me and, lots more than just the news, we have to talk about DC. We have to talk about Marvel. John, how are you doing today? What are you most excited about?
I'm most excited about not a whole lot, in all honesty. Like, nothing's really all that engaging, so let's just get this shit off. Hey, I'm being honest. Like, with so much fake news,
I'm just saying, man, you're killing the excitement before we even get into it.
I'm just saying, like I said, I'm not gonna watch Cap 4 and the reviews,
Hey, you know what? I think the social media reactions embargo dropped midnight Eastern time yesterday, or I guess today it would have been. And then this afternoon at noon Eastern time, they dropped the embargo for the reviews listed. So basically, if you were up overnight, you would have seen social media reactions, and then starting at noon today, all the reviews started coming out. So we have a Rotten Tomatoes score. We'll get into that. We'll get into some of the reviews, what people are saying about the movie, what people are saying, what Harrison Ford was saying at the red carpet event. So the movie had its premiere today. So it's pretty common for Marvel movies to basically, wait to lift their review embargo until pretty close to the release, so they don't give away any spoilers, because a lot of people out there will take that information, and just put it on the internet and spoil the movie for us. They still do sometimes, it leaks, but anyway. So John, we're not going to start with Marvel just yet, though. We have to start with How to Train Your Dragon. DreamWorks and Universal. It's the live action version of the movie. We finally have the full trailer out today. These are, of course, some of the behind the scenes photos, some of the there you go. You got Gerard Butler there. But the trailer that came out today looks fantastic to me. I watched it. I feel like this movie is maybe 15 years too late, because some of the flying dragon sequences, I was like, wait, it looks like Avatar. Like this sequence here feels like in the first Avatar movie when they're learning to fly and stuff. I know it's like almost a shot-for-shot remake from How to Train Your Dragon, the animated version. It is a
shot-for-shot remake,
but
it's like, what's the point?
But like for me, I was hoping, with this. I mean, in some ways that they would like, obviously I don't mind that they were remaking the movie, but maybe kind of expand a little bit. But also just the fact that it looks a lot like mixture of Gladiator and Avatar. I'm like, it's not really giving me anything that I haven't seen before. But what are your thoughts about it? I mean, the movie itself looks exciting.
It still looks like dog shit. Like it just looks so boring. It looks so bland. It looks like every generic fantasy movie ever made. It's like, did like people like see Lord of the Rings 20 years ago and were like, yep, we can't do anything else in regards to visually. We can't top this, so let's just make every fantasy movie look boring as fuck. It looks like someone took a shit on the lens. Everything looks brown and brown scale and sepia tone. Like, I'm sick of this shit. Where's the color? I want to see the like you could. This
there's color. There's
in the animated
there.
movie is just so colorful color. And so like brilliant. Like this looks like washed out. It looks like someone took How to Train Your Dragon and threw it in a washing machine with bleach, and this is what came out. It just looks so boring. It looks pale. I'm just gonna rewatch the original. Like with like some of them. Here's the thing: when it comes to the live action remakes, this is the first DreamWorks one, and let's hope it stays that way when this thing. But it won't, because it's like, I hope it bombs, but it's gonna make a shit ton of money. But I hope it just doesn't do it. But it's like the only like movies I feel Disney live action remakes that have done well, that have kept the core of what made the story so good, but then expanded upon it and then did its own thing. Like with Cinderella, you had Kenneth Branagh doing it. Like he invigorated it with his own like prestige, but kept the core of what made the original so good to begin with, but like created something new. That's why that movie was so good. Jungle Book was another one.
I enjoyed Beauty and the Beast live action remake. That's probably one of my few ones that I enjoyed. That and Cinderella, I think, worked for me. So,
and then I've heard Pete's Dragon is really good, since the original was like weird as fuck. That's like, okay, that one I know. I think David Lowery might have done that one. The guy who did A Ghost Story. And then Maleficent, not great from what I've seen of it. I never saw the whole thing, but at least it like did something unique with it. Like, yeah, I don't like the idea of like Maleficent being like an anti-hero type shit. But at least like it tried to do like have like a different narrative and like do something interesting with the Sleeping Beauty like film. So it's like, okay, I'll give it that. But the rest of them are either like shot for shot, and it's like, what's the point? Because I could just watch the much better animated movie, or it like does something so weird and absurd that's like, why are you ruining what made it so good to begin with? And that's what like I'm kind of feeling from a lot of these. So obviously How to Train Your Dragon is different because it's not Disney, it's DreamWorks. It's like, oh, look, Disney's making a shit ton of money with this. Why don't we make a shit ton of money with this? I mean, it's nice that they brought Gerard Butler back again, because this is like Gerard Butler in the How to Train Your Dragon movies are like the only good movies that Gerard Butler has done since fucking 300. So, like, good for him, I guess. Like, okay, cool. He's gonna actually like, oh, okay, they brought him back. That's cool. But like, and I like Mason Thames. I think he was great in The Black Phone. But it's just like something about just like Jay Baruchel, like he just got like the whiny sniveling thing. But the thing is, he was like sympathetic, and like he was on the perfect line between annoying like teenager kind of character, but also like sympathetic, and like you like him a lot. He's relatable. So you had that dynamic really well. And I feel like Mason Thames is just trying way too hard to be like Baruchel when it's not working. And it's just like the CGI looks okay. I will say Toothless looks pretty good from what we've seen of him.
Yeah.
But it's just so boring to look at. Like it just looks so bland. It just looks like every other like this looks like an episode of Rings of Power, and that's not a compliment. Like that's it's just like,
I mean,
I want like a fantasy movie to look like fucking Excalibur. That's what I want it to look like. Like that is like top tier fantasy, and that's what. Now, I'm not saying every movie needs to look like that, but like give it some zest, give it some like creative, like something in there. It's so boring to look at, and it just looks like a shot for shot remake, but worse. And it's like, why should I care about this? I don't. And it's just like, I'm gonna be skipping this.
Look,
and it's
I
just
think I hear you. I think it's there. Disney has sort of, dried out the appetite anybody had for live action remakes because they have used and abused that concept. Whereas I think this, when it comes to live action remakes, like the Watcher was saying, visually it's very much true, both in spirit and quite literally in every which way almost to the animated version, including the dragons look pretty much the same. I think it's more the fatigue around live action remakes, the idea of them, that bothers us. Plus, here's the thing: as far as like this genre of fantasy, right? Like where you have dragons and the Colosseum and the hills and Vikings and stuff. There's only so many ways in which you can depict that, right? So I'm like, yes, there's quite a bit of few franchises over the years, including obviously Lord of the Rings, that have got a monopoly on that look. So it's hard to kind of innovate in a way that would feel different, especially when you're doing it in live action, where in animation, how you differentiate yourself is with character design, with the expressive animation, the different animation style. You do something, that you have technically got control over, where in the live action version, you can't really, I guess you have to kind of figure out the balance between how stylized something is and how, true to it being a live action thing it's going to be. And like obviously with the Lion King remakes, they went like it's gonna look like a National Geographic documentary, except animals will be talking and we won't hear Richard Attenborough's voice anyway. So it was, they went with ultra realism. Here it looks like visually they're trying to stay as true to the cues of the animated movie as possible, but obviously I think some of the magic of that movie was in the animation. And I feel the same is true for The Lion King. A lot of the magic of that movie is in the animation. You can't take something that inherently works because it's animated and expect it to be as good, if not better, than live action, because it was never designed as a live action movie. But that's, I think, the inherent flaw in this philosophy of let's do a live action remake. And I think, unfortunately, no matter how hard they try, no matter how technically, visually, creatively stout the movie might be, it's gonna still look like to us as like, why are we getting an live action remake? We have seen this before. It looks like every other fantasy thing. It's like those are all criticisms which are valid, but at the same time, I feel like they might not be fair, but like it doesn't matter because it's like I said, like the movie. It's the same thing. It's when you look at all those Disney animated movies, they work better as animated movies because they were designed as animated movies, right? It's like if you wanted to approach Snow White as a live action movie from the get go, if you wanted to adapt the fable or the book, you would do it differently than when you were trying to turn the animated version of the movie into a live action movie. It's different. Like the whole approach is different. So I think the fundamentally there's a flaw there, right? So I think in the logic, and that's really, it's hard to overcome that. So because like I said, and look, I say that while saying this movie technically, visually, so far this trailer's impressive, looks great. It's probably going to be one of the better live action remakes, but it's just not going to be able to escape that criticism because, again, How to Train Your Dragon was always an animated franchise. Nobody was
first one came
asking
out
for a live action version of it. In
2013, the first one that less than 20 years ago. Like, why are we getting this? So, and it was also really funny when I was seeing Hard Eyes and Love Hurts last week. I don't know, whenever I saw those. But yeah, sometime last week, it was funny. When I was waiting, because there was a long time gap when I went to go see Hard Eyes, I was just like sitting in like one of the.
Angelica just saw Hard Eyes in the chat, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. She said Love Hurts was not very good. But I was sitting in the bar area that my theater has, and I was just like kind of on my phone, and there were a lot of kids there. I mean, it was a Saturday, so Friday, Saturday, so more kids coming in and going to see like all the kiddie stuff that's out. And it was funny, there was this kid there was like he didn't look more than 10 years old, maybe he was like 8 or 9, but he saw the poster for How to Train Your Dragon. He's like, oh, oh yeah, they're making this, and like, oh, my sister's really excited. We're gonna go see it. And he's like, and then he like turns to his friend. He's like, yeah, but have you ever like noticed that like none of the remakes that come out are like as good as the original movies? Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, and then he like walked off. I'm like, if kids can notice this, then clearly you're doing something wrong. But hey, it still makes hundreds of millions of dollars, so I guess that doesn't matter. But I just felt that was a funny thing to mention. Like, come on, at least if an 8-year-old can notice that, then everybody else can. So
I mean, it's completely fair. I
not
totally
everyone
get
has
it.
seen it. Then this okay? Then why would you go see the remake? Because the whole basis of it is like, oh, they're doing it. This movie I saw in animated form, in live action form, so I'm gonna go see it. If
Yeah.
you've never heard of How to Train Your Dragon and you're like, I might go see this, but I don't really care because I didn't see the original anyway. So that's like half the reason why you go see a remake is for the people that watch the original and are like, oh, we're trying to get those fans again.
Yeah.
Sure, you're going to get people that maybe
I mean,
haven't seen it, but like at the same
yeah.
time, it's like, why, if the people who didn't see the original didn't care, sure, you're going to get a small number of people that are like, I don't like
I mean,
animated movies, so I'll go see this. But
like
that's
you said,
not really a huge amount.
I get it, but like, look, Disney movies make billions of dollars. Like last year, the $3 billion movies from Disney because they're targeted at kids and stuff. I get the. By the way, the Watcher. I'll get to your comment. I think it's a really, really good point. But like Figure Drawing was saying, not everybody has seen it. There's a lot of kids out there who are really
there's
young,
a lot of kids out there,
or maybe
I
weren't
understand
even
kids exist,
around at the time.
but
so I understand, and you know what? Like the target audience for this movie is obviously younger than. I mean, yes, they want to bring everybody in. I think this is what's they want to qualify as a 4-quadrant movie where everybody in the family should go see it. But I don't think it's primarily targeted at us.
But here's the thing.
So I understand that.
I understand kids exist, but I'll one up you on that argument. Okay, kids are there. So let's say you have a family of 4. You go to the theater at the very cheapest. That is $40 for a movie. And then with these kids, you're going to need like 2 buckets of popcorn, 4 sodas, lots of candy. That's probably another $40 to $50. So that's almost $100 to see a movie. Or you can How to Train Your Dragon. I'm looking this up right now. Original film. There we go. How to Train Your Dragon. Where is it playing? If it was my Google wasn't being an asshole. Also, it came out 2010. It is on Netflix and Max for free. So you can, if you have a Netflix that you pay for, and a lot of people do, if you have a Max to pay for, a lot of people do. People are just going to watch the animated movie in the comfort of their own home without wasting $100 on seeing a movie, and it's going to be much better anyway. So, like, honestly, if I was a parent, I'd be like, okay, kids, I understand you're really excited to see this movie, but also like dad works at McDonald's as a McDonald's manager and he can't afford to go see a movie for $100. So how about this? We'll do this instead. We can watch this movie. That's way better. And we can get like, homemade popcorn and we can like make a movie night out of it. Like,
Yeah.
I'd much rather do that than I understand. Like as someone who loves the movie theater experience since I was a kid, I understand that. But like, if I was a parent and I had to like keep track of my expenses, I'd be like, okay, what am I going to fork over? $100 on a movie that's probably going to suck and not be as good as the original animated movie, or I can watch the animated movie at home at the very least for like $4 on Vudu or Apple, or see it for free if I have Netflix. Well, free if I have Netflix or Max. So it's like, yeah, okay, kids exist, but like forking over $100 to see a movie, I don't know about that. Like, there's a I understand that argument, but like, okay, kids exist, but you could also show them the much better movie at home, or you could wait till streaming. But like even then, you could see the
I
much
just-
better movie at home right
Yeah.
now and do that instead of going to see the movie. So I don't know. That's just how I'm viewing it. But whatever.
I mean, look, in the chat, you got Angelica saying, for me, I'd rather make it into a series than a movie. Figure Drawing saying the casting in this live action seems pretty cool. Like I said, I mean, on a lot of fronts, this movie is not the worst example of a live action remake, at least so far, based on the marketing. And yes, I mean, I think we all agree that this movie is targeted at kids, but obviously they want to draw in an audience across.
And also,
other
Figure Drawing saying
demographics.
Netflix is $25 now. Yeah, that's still less than $100 going to see a movie
for a
with
full
snacks.
month. You know,
For a whole
it's
month,
a different.
I
It's a
could
different
watch
thing.
the entire trilogy of How to Train Your Dragon for $25 for a family of 4. Still cheaper.
But
You're
I
just
just
proving
wanna-
my argument.
I get it. I think it's a false equivalent to try to compare the cost of a Netflix subscription monthly to the cost of a singular movie ticket, because it's also you're paying for two very different kinds of products there. But also
I get it.
the watcher has
and
a
this
good
is
point.
coming from someone
Look,
who loves the theater.
I think
I'm just saying.
yeah,
that.
just no, absolutely. And in general, I think these live action remakes are part of most of Hollywood is now bought out by big Wall Street entities, whether they're investment funds and such. And not only that, but a lot of studios have executives who have business degrees. They're not like coming up. They're not people who came up to the movie industry as in the story department or some other, or like as producers and stuff. So what you have are companies that studios that want to make safe bets, and the live action remake is a safe bet because
It's a safe
you're
bet, it's
remaking
an IP.
something that was already had a
Have some known
pre-existing
people.
audience, which is why we're getting more adaptations of comic books and books and just anything that has a pre-existing
I mean, How to
audience.
Train Your Dragon
Video
was a book.
games, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the Wall Street influence. Absolutely. I don't think that necessarily limits you to doing terrible movies. But as far as look, again, this movie is not going to be the worst example, at least from what we have seen so far, of a live action remake. Disney has done far worse. But just in general, I think the concept is what we are rallying against, not so much. I think this movie looks pretty good so far. John, I know you're not as interested in it.
No.
But I'm interested in it. So, hopefully, we can get more of it soon. But yeah, in the meantime, John, we got to move on to the next topic here.
Enough ranting.
Yeah.
Got to go to the next link.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. There we go. I'm like trying to find the next thing. There we go. All right. So the VES Awards took place, which is basically the Visual Effects Society. The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes has now taken the top VFX Society award. This was something that the Planet of the Apes franchise had never done before. Basically, in the past, like they had always been nominated, but they never quite got the award. Now they finally have won that award. So, John, I mean, are you surprised, excited, glad that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, finally took one home for the franchise that has really just been innovating and doing just amazing stuff for over a decade now? I mean, Caesar all the way now to the legacy of Caesar.
Yeah, I think this is great. Doom Part 2, I would say Doom Part 2 probably had better effects, but Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is one of those movies where it's like, I was excited for it, but I was still really skeptical. I've said this numerous times before, but like none of the previous 2 directors were coming back, which were Matt Reeves, but I forget who the first guy was. I think it was Rupert something, or something like I forget his name, but he was whoever directed Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Maybe you could tell me in the comments. But you can, you could see like that original trilogy was fucking great. So I'm like, okay, but you have this guy who's he only did the Maze Runner movies, which were not very good, from what I've heard. Like I've heard mixed things, but they're fun, but like not great. So I'm like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, but this guy was a special effects guy, so that's like hopeful. So I was like, okay, let's see. And then it just completely blew me away with how good it was. I love like lots of shades of gray. Like nobody was really a bad guy unless, with the exception of Kevin Durant's character. But like in terms of like the 2 protagonists, like you could see them from both sides. Both did a really good job. You know, girl from The Witcher, glad she's like doing stuff outside of that because that shit's gonna fucking get canceled soon with fucking the boring Hemsworth as Geralt now.
I
So
mean, I think they were gonna wrap it up. It seems like anyway, or at least that's what they would have you believe. So
they wanted to have 7 seasons. That was the plan, and then now nobody's fucking watching it now because nobody gives a fuck about Liam Hemsworth. And like the horrible conditions that the entire crew had to go with, and writers not respecting the source material. So there's all that. But in terms of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, it was definitely a really, really, really good movie. Continued the greatness of this franchise. And the innovation, as you were saying, the innovation of visual effects. I mean, it did get nominated for an Oscar, and we'll see. It's unlikely it will win that one, but it's nice that it won here.
Yep.
But it's just great. It's just great.
It's great. And again, the first for the franchise, you know, I'm surprised it took them this long. I don't even know if their best work was in this movie necessarily, but I mean, obviously they've kept on, you know, innovating on top of every movie that has come out. And this is the beginning of, it looks like, a new trilogy of movies. So yeah, glad that it's being recognized. Of course, some of the other winners, Civil War won the best visual effects and a photoreal feature, so something that was live action. Then The Wild Robot won for the animated feature for outstanding VFX. Again, The Wild Robot is nominated at the Oscars, you know, so that's probably a good preview of, you know, maybe his chances of winning an Academy Award. But you know, Shogun, as always, you know, has been picking up pretty much every award it's been nominated for. So outstanding VFX in a photoreal episode. Anjin was the episode specifically that they awarded. The Penguin, another winner here. Outstanding supporting visual effects in a photoreal episode. I have no idea what that means, but outstanding supporting VFX, I suppose that's equivalent to supporting actor. So the Penguin won for Bliss. And then Star Wars Outlaw won for real time project. I guess that means like it's like a live, live show of some kind. VFX in a commercial, Coca-Cola, D23, the real time rocket in a special venue project. Better Man's Robbie Williams won outstanding character in a photoreal feature. I'm like, that's such a narrow category. I bet you know, in a year when there's no Avatar movie, there's not many options that you can pick from. And then The Wild Robots Roz won for an animated feature actor. So there you go. I mean, the list goes on, but like Dune won a few things, you know, like the best environment in a photoreal feature, the Arakan Basin. Then The Wild Robot won for animated environment, The Forest. Shogun again winning for game cinematic or real-time project, basically an outstanding environment in a TV show, basically anything but an animated or live action feature. Dune also won for Arrakis as the best CG cinematography. So Alien Romulus got themselves an outstanding model. So now we're getting into more of the technical stuff, way more technical than most people care about. But again, you know, the Planet of the Apes franchise finally picking the big one up here. So I'm glad that that's finally, you know, something that we have got taken care of. So with that said, let's keep the ball rolling here, John. We got to get to the Harry Potter part of the show. The new HBO series apparently is eyeing John Lithgow to play Dumbledore. This is on the heels of seeing, I believe it was yesterday, we didn't really cover on the show, but Cillian Murphy is also attached potentially to the character. I forget the name of the character, but he turns out to be Voldemort, like a vessel for Voldemort in the first book.
Professor Quirrell.
Yes, Quirrell, which I forget who plays him in the original movie.
I forget who plays him in the original movie.
2 months ago. But like, you know, he would be only for one season, right? And Cillian Murphy is a very in-demand actor, so I suppose getting him for one season is easier than,
and it's
if
like
they want
that's
to get
the
him
closest
for
we'll
longer.
get in terms of him being Voldemort, because everyone wants him for Voldemort. But
exactly.
Yeah.
But hey, John Lithgow, do you think that's a good fit for
Voldemort? I think he would definitely be. Here's the thing. I'm not sure, because J.K. Rowling, ignoring controversy, she was very much a stickler, like, get British actors for the movies, and she still has a big role as an executive producer. I don't know, like, how big it is, so maybe it's not as big as we thought. Maybe it is. Maybe she's become more lenient in recent years. I don't know, but he did previously play Winston Churchill, a Brit in The Crown, so maybe that's something. And I feel like John Lithgow would be a really good fit. Because I feel like, I mean, Richard Harris was perfect for Dumbledore, but unfortunately he passed away. Michael Gambon wasn't bad. It just he was very much not like when Richard Harris was so perfect for that role. Michael Gambon being a much more of a prickly Dumbledore. I'm like, I could never like he wasn't bad, and Michael Gambon was an exceptional actor, but it's just like he never sat right with me, especially when they got someone as excellent and someone straight off the page like Richard Harris. With John Lithgow,
perfect.
With John Lithgow, I think he would be a good halfway point between the two, which I think would be really good. I think he could definitely have those prickly, like not prickly, but like those more like serious, like stern moments whenever they do come up. Not him acting like a crazy person, like like he has calmly. So you had that, but I think like
that hurt my ear. Gosh.
Sorry.
Damn.
Hey, that hurt all of our ears when they did that.
Apparently.
Anyway, but I think John Lithgow definitely has the voice and the personality of someone who's just a very like nice guy. Like I know he's been in like Raising Cain and like a lot of like really like fucked up, and he does like Harry in not Harry Morgan, but Harry in Dexter.
I mean, he was recently in The Old Man, and that just got canceled, so I'm sure that has opened up a bit of time on his schedule. So.
And the thing is, I think he definitely has like the kind of kind-hearted twinkle in his eye, like that he could give to Dumbledore.
Like he would be somebody you can easily expect to be like, okay, I'm taking care of you, Harry. Harry, I will make sure that you're taken care of. Like he has that,
he has that vibe, and I think
yes,
like
exactly.
Like him in like a long like wizard beard with like long hair, wearing a wig. I think he could like he definitely has like.
And then when he's gonna have to be badass in like the 7th season and take on Dumbledore.
He has a good grandpa face. Like he has
yes,
he gives you like this warm, reassuring smile that like everything will be okay. And he's such like, and in real life, he's such like a dweeb, but in like the best way possible. Like I recently watched him going through the Criterion Closet, and because I love to watch those videos, but he was just like acting like just this. He's the personification of like a kind old man, like and I think that kind of
literally
works
that
for
was
Dumbledore.
What was it? Yeah. Daddy's Home? Or what was, is that what
Daddy's
it was?
Home 2.
Literally
Daddy's
in
Home
the
2.
second one, like that's exactly what he is there
I was
to
also
be.
thinking of Daddy's Home 2.
That's exactly what he's there to be.
He's so versatile. Like he's like he could do Third Rock from the Sun, he could do Raising Cain and Dexter, and then he could do something like this. Yeah. He's just such a legendary and great actor, so versatile. And I think even though he's not British, I think he would do a great job in this role, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it is Variety, like talking about this, not, Jeff Snyder, or My Time to Shine, or Grace Randolph. Right. So it's someone with clout, and
apparently they're in final talks. So this is okay. So Variety, just let me kind of read this part out because I think this is pretty significant. Variety has confirmed Lithgow's contention for the role with sources, though HBO commented, "We appreciate that such a high-profile series will draw a lot of rumor and speculation. As we make our way through pre-production, we will only confirm details as we finalize deals." So according to, if you look at the sentence above that paragraph, they say John Lithgow is in final talks to play Albus Dumbledore in HBO's upcoming adaptation of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter book. So, they haven't, crossed their T's and dotted their I's, right? Like James Gunn never announces anything officially until that's done. Like that's why Kyle Chandler didn't become official for weeks after we already knew, according to reports, that he was taking on the role. So according to that logic, I think this is as close to being done as you can have, before it actually gets confirmed. So yeah, you know what? John Lithgow as Dumbledore. Just look at the photo. They put them right next to each other. I feel like
just
like you said,
Photoshop
you put
the beard onto him.
Just Photoshop. Yes,
perfect.
You do an easy Photoshop. He fits in. I think visually, at least, he's there from an acting perspective. Obviously, he's got all the talent in the world. And then, like you said, he feels like a good fit. He's got all the qualities. He's done work that's similar in the past. And so, yeah, I mean, the Ron saying for the Harry Potter series, I need to see that trailer. I don't know how I feel about that yet. So, yeah, I mean, it will depend again, how good it is. It will depend on what they actually turn out. But when you look at the talent both behind the camera and now in front of the camera, they've got some of the best showrunners in the business who have done a lot of, really good series over at HBO already working on this. I believe like the guys who did the Chernobyl limited series are part of the producing team, and then there's a few other really high profile producers who have done like some really huge hit a series over not just at HBO but other streamers as well. And then now in front of the camera, John Lithgow of course added is a great pick, and if they were to get Cillian Murphy, then that's another big one. I mean, yeah, if you go off like the talk of the town in Hollywood right now, the biggest of names want to be a part of this thing. Like A-listers are lining up, like, having their agents call in and say like, can you sign us up for a role here? We'll take what we can get. It's probably going to be one of the biggest shows when it comes, if not the biggest show on the planet when it does come out. So yeah, I mean, this
might actually get me into watching the show. Like at first I kind of swore it off because like, we're not following the books. We're going to do our own thing, which I fucking despise, but they might get me with John Lithgow. They might fucking get me with John Lithgow, and then I'll watch it. I'll hate it, but then I'm like, God damn it, John Lithgow's so great though.
He was one of the best parts of The Old Man. Why am I forgetting the other one? The main person is Jeff Bridges. Sorry,
Jesus Christ, how do you forget Jeff Bridges?
I brain fart. Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow, dude, their chemistry in that show was amazing. I'm just surprised that show got
canceled, or did it like end and then they're like, might as well cancel it?
As far as I remember, it got canceled. Like because I remember watching the end of season 2 last year, and I mean, look, after the end of first season, I mean, basically the story of season 1 could have wrapped up halfway through season 2. It almost did. Then they sort of transitioned into a new direction. It's one of those things where you're opening up, you're peeling off layers of an onion, and you thought you were at the all the way in, but then there's like another layer. So they opened up a new mystery that they could have basically they ended the second season not on a cliffhanger, but firmly with the intention to come back and like go in a different direction with the story. And we kind of got a hint at where they might be going, but the show is no longer going to be around. I mean, honestly, I thought the propulsive momentum of the first season was gone, and they'd kind of gone as far with it as they could. So maybe they should have kept it to being, a nice wrap up at the end of season 2 where all the story threads were tied up and they called it a day. But yeah, I mean, they were going in a new direction, but I think how grounded season 1 was, that aspect of it had sort of diminished a little bit, because now they were like extending it into like more of the there's a bigger conspiracy here mode. So I think the show not being around anymore doesn't necessarily hurt it, because its best days were behind it. But that being said, John Lithgow is still doing a lot of other work, and apparently he might be tied up for the next 10 years with being Dumbledore. But moving on to another franchise where somebody might be tied up for another 10 years. Anthony Mackie might be our Captain America for another 10 years, given the amount of movies he's already signed up for the next 2 Avengers movies. He's got his own Captain America movie that is, basically coming out in a couple of days, depending on when you watch it. It might already be out for you. And then, Harrison Ford, it looks like he just signed up for what could be another 10 years, because not only is he the Red Hulk, but he's also the president of the United States in this movie. So the reviews are out today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the social media embargo lifted overnight at midnight Eastern time, and then at noon Eastern time the review embargo lifted. So if you woke up early in the morning and went on social media, you could have seen their first reactions. They were overall pretty positive. And then when the reviews started coming out and the Rotten Tomatoes score opened up, they were firmly mixed. As you can see here on the headline in Variety, they say Anthony Mackie takes up the shield in a franchise time filler that's just fun enough. And then they kind of continue on to say Mackie's slyly dogged Captain America has less superpower than his predecessor, and so does this movie, but in its prosaic earthbound way, it escapes superhero fatigue. So they're saying it's not all bad. It's pretty good for what it is. It's just not anything groundbreaking. It's like, it's another Marvel movie. You'll probably enjoy it. I mean, some people are saying it's really good. most people are saying it didn't move the needle for them. I mean, and that seems to be kind of where Variety landed with it. What are your thoughts on this? Just the initial reactions, and as we talk about it, I'll cycle through a few more reviews. But John, were you expecting exactly this, or were you expecting something worse or something better when these reviews came out?
I mean, I like before I knew all the bullshit like that was propagated for months, I thought it was gonna be the worst thing ever. But then like, after realizing that that was all fake, I was still like, I don't think it's gonna be the greatest thing ever. I don't think it's gonna be good. At the very most, it's gonna be like a mid rehashing of
Yeah.
Winter Soldier in terms of tone and genre, which like I guess is something. Like they're doing like an espionage thriller like that, and they're trying, as they were saying, it escapes superhero fatigue because it doesn't just feel like every other superhero movie. It actually tries to do something like what
I mean,
Winter
literally
Soldier
a lot
did.
of
So
a lot of the reshoots that they did were to bring in more grounded characters. Like they replaced, or they took out rather, like Seth Rollins' character, who was like, if you saw the behind the scenes photo, he was a member of the Serpent Society, who looked like a very comic booky looking character, and they replaced him with Sidewinder, played by Giancarlo Esposito, which looks more down to earth and realistic in terms of how he's behaving, what he's wearing. His character feels a little more like somebody you might run into in just a political thriller that's not a superhero movie. So as far as the reactions go, John, the action sequences seem to be great. It's an enjoyable watch according to Screen Rant. Some of the reviews that they saw, a mix of Winter Soldier and The Dark Knight. I've seen a lot of comparisons to the Winter Soldier, some saying that it's a lesser version of it, some saying that this kind of like goes in a darker direction than even that movie did. It looks like there's some exciting stuff happening, but then again, for most people, it's like they're like, we've seen this before. Like, can Marvel give us something different? Almost like, Blue Beetle was a good movie, but like we have seen the first Iron Man movie, we have seen a lot of those, same story beats in an origin story. So it's just it's just a different packaging, a different flavor of the same ice cream. I don't know, like that kind of feels like what the general consensus is. And then some people are saying you can see the reshoots in the film, which I bet you probably didn't notice most of them, because most people think they know where the reshoots are. But anyway, I mean, again, sorry, John, I cut you off.
no, that's fine.
Well,
hey, look,
what are your
IGN
thoughts?
is giving a stupid review. That's crazy.
They gave it a 5 out of 10, which every comment in the chat is like, so that means it's good then, right? So that means it's a good movie, because they gave it a 5 out of 10 because they gave it the Penguin a pretty bad review, and that's winning all kinds of awards. So
yeah, IGN, you can't, as my friend said, my great smart friend said, you can't spell ignorance without IGN. Yeah, and that I think handles it
pretty much.
So I would imagine. Whoa, voice crack, Jesus! Happy Valentine's Day from the Red Hulk. That's good. I would imagine this is probably like a 6 to 7 movie. Like it's good, it's passable, but it's not going to be like Winter Soldier, which was like an 8.5, 9 out of 10. It's not the worst thing ever. Like half the Marvel movies that have come out, it's pretty good. Like, when was the last like really great Marvel movie? Like genuinely, like 9 to 10 out of 10. Like,
yeah, but I mean, it is coming out
even
on
though you
Valentine's
spelled
Day,
ignorant
so
wrong, but it's ignorant. That's okay. We still love you, Watcher.
Yep. By the way, speaking of Happy Valentine's Day.
No. Figure drawing. I'm not saying I gave it a 6 out of 10. I'm just saying, if I were to guess,
feels like one.
For most people, it's probably gonna be like a 6 to 7 movie. I haven't seen it. I can't judge, and I'm not going to see it because I don't care. So I'm gonna be seeing Paddington. I watched the first movie today. I thought it was really good. I need to watch the second one tomorrow, but I'm doing a marathon over the course of 3 days watching the Paddington movie. So hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Steven, I feel how you feel. Like, I think some of the negativity around this movie might be because people are expecting it to be bad. So, like, it kind of naturally it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. I, for one, want to give this movie as much of a chance as it possibly can. A fair shot at being something that entertains me. So I'll go in and wanted to like, hopefully, have a good time with it and suspend my disbelief and ignore the fact that
What?
shot right there looks pretty much like a rip. They literally gave the Red Hulk the same pose as one of the Avengers. I think it was the first or second.
No,
maybe
this
Age of
is the
Ultron.
Incredible Hulk poster. This is straight up the Incredible
literally.
Hulk poster.
Right, that's because it was the Hulk in the back, right, looking
And then
around.
Edward Norton was walking in front of him.
I was like, I've seen this before. I've seen this before.
Soups was negative, and the guy didn't. Superman doesn't like Sonic. What? What are you talking about?
We love Sonic on this channel. I don't know.
Sonic's amazing, and Superman, the character, doesn't like Sonic, the character, or are you saying Sonic? He doesn't like Sonic, the fast food, which is also questionable because Sonic is actually pretty good. Their milkshakes are really good. Their food's decent, but like, what?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Look, I think some of the negativity has to do with the fact that most people think that the reshoots blew the budget up, which isn't as true as people would like to believe. So yeah, some of the misinformation or mischaracterization on social media has kind of spread to the average audiences, which isn't fair, but that is what it has to fight up against now. What they said here in this review, I think was interesting from comicbook.com. This Captain America film has its flaws, but it's a movie that works quite well as a return to the MCU and what that said universe can still achieve, and it really puts its mind to it. So again, to me, that's an overall positive review. And like I said, there's some repetition that seems to be a theme. And when you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, this is, I think, the latest score from when I pulled it up just a few minutes before the show started. 52% off 118 reviews. This score, I think, initially debuted in the 40s. And even earlier today, I believe the number was somewhere in in the high 40s or early 50s. So it's been rising. Like I think when I checked it this afternoon, it was 51. Now it's 52. So off 118 reviews, it's still, off to probably one of the lowest scores in MCU history. I think when it first charted on Rotten Tomatoes, it was the lowest of any. But now it's sort of maybe climbed up beyond from the bottom. So not a great start, 52%. That means basically a little over half the review of the 118 critics did not like it. If I click on that number, we can go through a few of these. So let's see. We're gonna go to one of the ones that we know of because there's a lot. Black Girl Nerds, we get a lot of their stories off of social media. Their review said Brave New World takes bold swings in redefining what it means to carry the shield, and it sticks the landing, so they liked it. Here's a YouTube channel, Rachel Wagner, saying the story is all lead up to no payoff. It's not horrible, but it feels bland and forgettable. Okay. Top critic, Digital Trends. No blockbuster that costs this much should look this shoddy. I don't know. So if you go off the review, maybe they'll tell you how much they think this movie cost. Unless they're just making a general comment. Dan Murrell saying the clean edges of the good parts make the rough edges of the not so good parts even more obvious. What could have been an all-time great MCU movie seems to have been lost somewhere in the process. So they see potential in there, except the execution wasn't great. I'm just gonna click through and see maybe if there's a couple others that we can go through. Boston Globe did not like it. Making matters far worse is the film's blatant plan to be as inoffensive and apolitical as possible. It looks like the changes they made, shun through anyway. As a result, it's a raging bore on top of being nearly incomprehensible. So they found it to be confusing. All right, let's see what. So if I actually click on the score itself, of the 118 reviews, 61 of them are fresh, and then 57 are rotten, where the average rating is 5.6 out of 10. So firmly, the definition of mid.
Yeah,
John, again, just like I mentioned before, there's a couple of characters that one of the reviews mentioned that they had to take out because of reshoots. So like Seth Rollins, the wrestler, his Serpent Society member character is no longer in there, replaced by Giancarlo Esposito's character Sidewinder. Also Rosa Salazar, she was set to make an appearance as Diamondback. It looks like her character is also not in the movie.
That would make sense. I was wondering, like, so basically, why are you including her? Because if you're getting rid of all the other Serpent Society members for Sidewinder, why would you still have her?
Yeah. So it looks like what they did here is they got rid of almost every character that would have attached this movie to a potential World War Hulk story. So, that is, I think, a good thing in hindsight, because Now this story is a little more standalone. Like this movie doesn't need to become something that's connected to a million different threads, that you need to do a ton of homework for. Obviously, you need to know a few things about the MCU to go watch this movie and understand what's going on. But at least it's not a movie that's gonna like then become a setup for a World War Hulk movie. They can set that up and maybe it's in its own movie. So I see this as a positive. And then when you continue going into the stuff from today, we had some photos from the world premiere. Of course, a very standard Marvel world premiere. You can see that Liv Tyler is there, so she is definitely in the movie. Of course, you have Anthony Mackie in the middle.
Maybe that's
Harrison
what they
Ford.
want us to think, though.
I am pretty sure we confirmed it a couple of days ago.
I'm just kidding.
She's in there. But look, as far as this being a launching point for the Anthony Mackie version of the character, I'm excited for him. Harrison Ford, of course, had no idea what the multiverse was before he joined the movie, so that's not a surprise to any of us. And then when you
I don't know, kid. I just showed up and I acted in this piece of shit. Like you gotta stop asking me these questions.
That's pretty much what he was saying at the red carpet. I actually watched through some of his interviews, and that's the.
I mean, who doesn't love Harrison Ford? Like the man gives like no fucks, and it's like refreshing. He's like, he's just like, it's so like dry, and he's just so like, yeah, and like I remember this was like years ago. He was like doing this for Blade Runner, and when 2049 came out, and somebody was like, so I have a question for Mr. Ford. So we've noticed from your past few movies, are you going to go back and just redo all of your most famous franchises and just keep continuing that? He's like, you're goddamn right.
Right, I am.
And this was before Indiana Jones, too.
It was at a Comic-Con, right? And then the people are like, oh, damn, you go, dude.
He's like, and then
yeah.
And then so people in the comments are like, collecting planes is expensive. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, just Harrison Ford's great.
Yep. And I mean, Anthony Mackie is having the time of his life. I mean, I'm really, really happy to see that Anthony Mackie is finally getting the A-list treatment that this movie is giving him, because he's earned it throughout his career. I think that's probably like the biggest thing where the negative perception.
Clarence is going places.
I just hope that the negative perception of the movie, gives way to a positive response from the audiences when the movie does come out. From when we were doing the show, it's a couple of days away, at least one day away from previews, and then you can go see it on Friday if you don't get a chance to see it on Thursday. But Angelica, for example, is going to wait to see it until after she sees Paddington 3. So there you go. I mean, you've got the two movies. I mean, we're going to review both of them next week. Antonio saying, in my opinion, they could have just had a Falcon movie with him, just facing one of the Captain America villains from Hydra, because there's not a lot of crossover between Falcon villains and Captain America villains. But to that, I would say he is now Captain America, so I guess that doesn't matter so much, even though now there's a new Falcon that is his sidekick. And in the movie, it looks like they're very much of a Batman Robin vibe, even more so than what we got in. In the
how many times are we going to see Batman and Robin like
American
aesthetics
Falcon
before we actually get Batman and Robin again on the fucking big screen?
I know. But John, what do you think about this comment? This comment here from Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
You don't want a Infinity War and Endgame 2.0, he said, when he addressed the upcoming Avengers movie. The Russos, they're so smart and they have such a hold on this universe. He seems to be just absolutely, over the moon of what the Russos have planned for the next two Avengers movies. And if he doesn't want it to be a repeat of the last two Avengers movies, and he doesn't think that will be the case. What do you think about those comments from Anthony Mackie? Do you believe him? How much do you trust the Russo brothers and what they're doing with the next two films?
I don't fucking trust the Russo brothers at all. I think, I can kind of see like they don't want to just rehash what came before, but at the same time, there's also the idea of please rehash what came before, because those movies each got us $1 billion to $2 billion. So it's like, what are they going to do? I mean, there's a reason they got the Russos back. There's a reason they got RDJ back. They want to rehash their old successes. Now, are they going to just do that by bringing in all these people back? Or are they going to like literally do it from a story point of view, but it's with Doctor Doom instead of Thanos? So like that's the like that's the kind of iffy thing I have. It's like, okay, obviously they want to redo stuff, not redo. They want to rehash stuff to really get that like success back. Because yeah, sure, they've made money, but like they haven't made Endgame money. They haven't made Infinity War money in a while, with the exception of No Way Home, I think, and maybe like one or two others that aren't coming to. I know Guardians made like almost made $1 billion. It was like 800 something $1 million. I think Multiverse of Madness might have made a lot of money, but outside of that, I can't really think of any that made like close to $1 billion or past $1 billion, other than like No Way Home, Guardians, and maybe Multiverse of Madness or another movie. But that's not a ton. And but yeah, I think it's just like interesting. Okay, so it almost made $1 billion. Okay, almost made $1 billion, but it was close. It was close. Um, but yeah, I think obviously they're gonna keep some shit in the dark, and it's clear that Chris Evans, yeah, I believe that Tom Holland doesn't know because they don't fucking tell him anything. Um, but I think, um, yeah, I wouldn't imagine. I mean, RDJ is coming back as Doctor Doom. Chris Evans is definitely not coming back. Chris Hemsworth might come back, but yeah, the second week drop, that's definitely going to be something. I mean, Brie Larson might come back. But that's not the original Scarlett Johansson can't come back because she's dead. I don't think Jeremy Renner wants to come back. I think he wants to, kind of keep his shit separate, like kind of stick to the Disney Plus stuff. I feel like that makes sense for him. Um, but yeah, the only one that's like really in the cards of like the original ones are like Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk and Thor. Those are the only ones I could see maybe coming back. In terms of additional ones, I mean, Scarlet Witch is for the time being dead. Tom Holland, nobody knows Spider-Man anymore. Nobody knows Peter Parker. In my opinion, if this film flops, I won't be shocked if it doesn't. Marvel after the reboot needs either a new Steve or make Bucky Cap. I don't think Bucky should be Cap unless they like stricken from the record that Bucky was ever the Winter Soldier to begin with, because that's the only way I could see that working. Because the whole basis, like literally people. Okay, I'm side tangent, Watcher. You brought this up, so now I got to bring this up. The whole reason why Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson is Cap and not Sebastian Stan as Bucky is something that goes back to the first film when Erskine was talking to Steve Rogers. We don't, like, paraphrasing, of course, because I haven't seen the movie in like years, but we don't need a perfect soldier. We need a good man. Steve Rogers was a good man. Sam Wilson is a good man. Bucky is a perfect soldier, because that's what he was trained by Hydra and, KGB and whatever the fuck. That's who he would. So it would be wrong for Bucky to become Cap because he's a soldier. He's too perfect as a soldier. Well, while Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, he's different from Steve, but he has the morality of Steve. But he also is a man in a modern era. So there's that as well. So it brings in a lot of interesting things. It's just like a shame that it's just the problem is, like, he is kind of getting sloppy seconds. He's not his own hero anymore. At the same time, I'm like, I wish he stayed Falcon, but he is the better choice to become Captain America if you're picking between the two. Now, with this, I do believe that we should have gotten more of Sam Wilson before Falcon and the Winter Soldier, before like all this other shit. I think I think it just the problem is like comics, you're getting that shit. Like you're getting so many different series once or twice a month or once every other month, which is still a lot. And you know these characters more because you get more of their stories. Movies, it's harder. So I understand why we didn't feel as big of a connection for Sam Wilson as a character because he was only in Winter Soldier, he was in Civil War, and then he was in, a bit of the Avengers movies, and then he had a cameo in Ant-Man and a cameo in Age of Ultron. And that's kind of like he didn't leave much of an impression, so it's harder for people to get attached to this character while we knew Steve. Like he had like movies and Avengers and his own franchise, and also to know this character. Well, I feel like Falcon, we never really got that with him. He never really had his own thing. He should have gotten. It would have been nice to get like a Falcon movie with him or a Falcon show or like an arc of a show, like something to like get us to know this character more. So it feels better for when he takes up the shield. Sorry for burping. So like it feels better, like it feels right. It feels better. And so when he does take up the shield, it means something because it meant something in the comics. But it's hard because Captain America, the Steve Rogers version, was Captain America for literal decades. And then he gets taken the shield. So obviously you can't show that on screen. It's a movie. You got to keep things going. And if you're passing shit on, these characters can't stay these characters for literal decades like they do in the comics. It's harder to do that. So I understand why people are like iffy on it. But at the end of the day, even though I wanted to see him as Falcon more, be a little bit more in tune with the comics rather than just guy with a fancy jetpack. But
Yeah.
I think, yes, I would have liked to seen him as Falcon more. Would I liked him to have stayed Falcon? Yes, because I feel like that is his own hero. That's Sam Wilson's persona, and he should have stayed that way instead of like being the sloppy seconds Captain America and the black Captain America. Because unfortunately, that's something that people touch on, so I have to touch on that. But I know I think it's annoying, but yes,
Yeah.
but I still agree. Despite all of that, I do agree that he should have stayed Falcon. But if you had to pick between the two, Sam Wilson was the man and is the man who should be Captain America. End of discussion. I don't care what anybody says. Everyone says, oh, Bucky. No, that's literally between the two of them. That was proving Erskine's point. Rogers picking Sam Wilson was him picking the good man, not the perfect soldier. And on top of the fact, Bucky at that point in Endgame still didn't have all of his facilities totally okay. Like as we saw in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he still needed to like go to therapy and figure himself out. So he didn't have all of his facilities there, while Sam Wilson had more of a grip on like his identity and who he was, while Bucky just straight up didn't. So there's that as well. So I don't care what anybody says. Sam, if you had to choose a successor, Sam Wilson was the way to go.
Yeah, I think Figure Drawing agreeing with you that Bucky might have still had a few screws loose, or like certainly it would have been risky, and I think it's even with Sam Wilson, it's clearly the government didn't see it that way. That's why we got what was his name? Agent? No, who plays the Captain America at the beginning of the TV show? Who's John Walker, right?
Wyatt Russell. Yeah.
Wyatt Russell. Yeah, so I mean it's Ryan's saying we're still talking like this movie is gonna suck. Wait till Friday's guys left.
I literally just admitted it's probably gonna be
US
a
Agent.
flick.
Thank you, Figure Drawing. Look, here's the thing. And by the way, the Watcher, I think good point on your part that yes, Bucky was brainwashed. I mean, you can't It's difficult. Like but this is the thing about like Bucky Barnes' story. This is the thing about Steve Rogers' story. This is even with Sam Wilson's story. There's a lot of nuance to it, right?
There's a
There's
lot of
nothing is
nuance to
truly
it.
black and white. There because and with Sam, one of you guys were saying in the chat that you're tired of the whining of his reluctance to take on the character. I think the whole thing in the TV show was it's not that he doesn't want to take on the shield. It's like I have to earn it. But are people going to want me as that? It's the acceptance side of it. That's where like he's worried that I'm a black man who doesn't come from any privileged position. It's hard enough as it is to get accepted at large. Will people just simply like not see me as somebody who's worthy of the shield? And clearly the show starts out with the shield being taken away from him, where he voluntarily gives it up because he's like, I just don't want to get into like the
but then he
like the
fucking
shittiness
trusted
of what would happen
but he
otherwise.
trusted the
But
government like an idiot. So there's that.
I know, but like that he's learning his lessons throughout. That's part of his growth during the show. That you can't just blindly put your trust in the institutions. But as a former military man, he grew up, or like he went through a big chunk of his life believing in those institutions. So, and part of what prepared him to be Captain America is to question authority. And I think that was the arc that they gave him, which clearly Steve Rogers had in spades, aka Civil War. So, and that's what Captain America has always been his best in the comics, is when he questions authority. He doesn't just go along with what the government or like
there's
the
literally a
do.
panel
So
that has Steve Rogers, and this is an old panel too, of him standing next to the American flag. He's like, I stand for what this represents, not for whatever you say. That's like he's literally, I stand up for what America is and should be, not the government. That's literally the whole point of Captain America. I stand for what's morally right, and not just blindly following orders. Hello, we literally had a war all about that. So that's the point of Captain America. Like, he like that's the character. Like, I know he was originally a propaganda piece punching Hitler in the face. I get that, but these characters evolve more than that, beyond that, and he's become more of a nuanced and intriguing character because of that. So like,
Now, of course, pivoting a little bit to what's to come after Captain America 4, of course, Anthony Mackie, that is, was asked about which of these Avengers do you think will return for Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, and he was like, well, look, RDJ made the big announcement that he's coming back. Other than him, I don't know who of the original crew will be coming back. Well, I don't know if I believe that he doesn't know. I wouldn't be surprised, but guess what? A bunch of cast members for Avengers Doomsday have been spotted all over the UK ahead of the movie going into production next month in March. And then, of course, we've got a bit of an update from Nate Moore for Black Panther 3. He's one of the lead producers over at Marvel. But let's start off with some of these photos, shall we? So speaking of who will be returning, of course, we know the directors, the Russo brothers, are going to be there because they're directing the movie. They're returning to direct the Avengers Doomsday. But we know Sebastian Stan is going to be in it. We know Chris Hemsworth's going to be in it. So we've already seen several members. So we know that we're going to, get the Winter Soldier and we're going to get Thor. And beyond that, we might get even more. So there's that. And then the other news update here was that, there was a rumor out there that, hey, maybe somebody was offered the role for T'Challa as bringing that character back. Now, producer Nate Moore mentioned that, if we are to, recast T'Challa, he, the situation around that, he wanted to make it a little bit more clearer since all the rumors have been swirling. And he said, it won't be before Avengers. That's our next big thing, but we'll get back to Wakanda as soon as we can. Now, he did previously mention that, the rumors you have heard about T'Challa recasting are not true. So it looks like Black Panther 3, regardless of whether it has a new T'Challa in it or not, is not going to be happening until after both of the Avengers movies. But are you surprised to see that Sebastian Stan and Chris Hemsworth are, in London, or in the UK rather, getting ready to film this movie?
I mean, I literally just mentioned if like any of the original crew coming back, it's probably going to be Thor. They need to, reinvigorate him after fucking Love and Thunder. So they're like, all right, got to bring him back. And then maybe the Hulk. But like outside of that, I mean, I wouldn't imagine if they're still doing the Professor Hulk thing that Mark Ruffalo would have to come on set. So he would probably just have to be a voice. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, Sebastian Stan is probably going to be part of the new lineup. And then Maybe he might die. I could see Sebastian Stan dying.
If he
Thor,
survives Thunderbolts, that is. Well, apparently he is because he's out there.
I mean, we knew he like that's what. Here's the thing. That's what they set up with Suicide. The only one to have done any balls at all is James Gunn in terms of a Suicide Squad or Suicide Squad esque story, and he got shit on for it. Like literally, people were mad that he killed off Captain Boomerang and Polka Dot Man when it's like literally, it's in the fucking name. It's a suicide mission. People are gonna die, yet. In the original Suicide Squad, nobody died because El Dorado came back, and then
Slipknot dies. You know,
but nobody gives a fuck about Slipknot. He was the guy to show off.
You know what gave it away?
Things actually.
You know what gave it away? He didn't give him like a whole fancy intro with the graphics. He
it's
just
like
shows
Wonder Woman
up.
Captured him, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's
it's like, by the way, here you go. Here's one extra dude, and the first moment they have to escape, he gets his head blown off. I'm like, that's great.
And then that's what it's gonna happen. Like all of these characters are the only one I can maybe see dying is like Taskmaster, because nobody gives a fuck about this version of Taskmaster. In fact, it's not even really Taskmaster, so like nobody cares. But like, I mean, they would be fucking stupid if they killed off Sebastian Stan, Florence Pugh, or David Harbour. They would be beyond fucking stupid to do that. I mean, I could maybe see Wyatt Russell or Ghost, Hannah John Kamen, but like, no way they're gonna fucking kill anybody. Like, even though it's like, because that's what the Thunderbolts kind of started off as. Like, it was kind of doing its own thing, but it was essentially Marvel Suicide Squad. Like, that's what they were like doing. But they're not gonna kill anybody off. Like, that would be fucking stupid, and you know that would be risky, and Marvel doesn't do risky moves. So yeah, no way is that happening. If they like, because they see like, oh, what James, they killed off Polka Dot Man, they killed off Captain Boomerang. Oh, people hated that. We can't kill off anybody of note because then people are gonna get mad, and it's just like, yeah.
Or the Void
I'd watch
kills
it if
them
they
all
die. Sentry just kills them. That would be awesome. Not gonna lie.
Look, I think a lot of the big cast members will be back, as you guys probably think the same. But one thing you guys discussed yesterday, speaking of the Thunderbolts, that I wanted to kind of get into, because I don't think we really dove into it on a very granular, the word level, on a very granular close-up level. Thunderbolts has this asterisk next to it. And the latest poster, of course, not only do you see the big asterisk that they have all these characters staged within, and of course Bob is right there at the bottom, Sentry. But dude, you look at the bottom here of this poster, usually an asterisk annotates some kind of like footnote or omission or something like that. And here, I don't know if this is being playful, but is this what it is? Thunderbolts with an asterisk, and in the bottom it says the Avengers are not available, so therefore the Thunderbolts are coming. They kind of address it in the trailer too, like the Avengers are not coming. So is that really all there is to it, or do you think there's still like another extra bit of this title that we don't know yet, something that will be revealed when the movie comes out that Kevin Feige is holding on to?
If that's it, that's really fucking stupid. It's just like, because I feel like misinterpreting what they misinterpreted Suicide Squad. It's like, oh, if we got to have a backup plan if a Superman or Superman-esque character fucking rips off the roof of the White House and that's not what the Suicide Squad is. Like, a walking clussy with a gun isn't gonna fucking stop Superman. And if anybody gives me that fucking kill the Justice League bullshit, I'm kicking you out. I'm banning you. Okay, get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Yeah.
All right. First off. Second, that's not what the Thunderbolts are. Originally the Thunderbolts was a very different, like, it was actually started by Zemo. Like, he came back in order to like try to like take over, like have his plans. He brought in these villains, but then like disguised them as heroes, and then they were starting to do good. As good, and then but they were also doing bad things at the same time. But then they were like, oh, what if we were actually good? So there was kind of like some intriguing nuance stuff with that. And if they did hit that here, that would be really awesome. But if it's just like, oh, this ain't your daddy's Avengers, it's the Thunderbolts. It's like, really? That's not every team has to be the Avengers. Not every team has to be the Justice League. You can have other teams that represent different things. You don't just have to have, oh, this is Avengers, but this is Avengers, but this. It's no, just have different teams that mean different things. Like, come on, it's stupid. Like, if it like, because there's a whole bunch of theories going around, like, oh, it's because the Avengers are not available, or they can't decide on a name. Or
well, I mean, in the trailer, they can't even decide on it. It's like, no, we're not gonna call ourselves that.
Or they can't use the name because of Thunderbolt Ross. So there's a whole bunch of different.
Yeah. By the way, the Watcher suggesting, like, the symbol asterisk is also a symbol for the sun, and it's a symbol for Sentry because the Sentry his power is supposedly the power of 1,000 exploding stars. So yes, that's a good way of looking at it. Here's what I think is more likely the case, right? In the trailer, the way they talk about it is like, it's almost like, okay, we're gonna call ourselves the Thunderbolts, and they're like, no, we're not. And Captain America 4 comes out, and I'm pretty sure one of the post-credit scenes is gonna connect to this movie, which comes out right after Captain America. It's the one Thunderbolts comes out between Captain America 4 and Fantastic Four. So of course we have Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, played by Harrison Ford, as the president in the MCU now. The Thunderbolts in the comics are named after him, Thunderbolt Ross. So it's kind of like his team of Avengers, right? Like you just described it in a manner of speaking, right? So basically, I think what's going to happen here is there's something in this new Captain America 4 movie that is going to be a reference to his Thunderbolt nickname for the president. And then these guys being sanctioned by the CIA, they're like, oh, we should call ourselves the Thunderbolts because we're all the president's men or something. I don't know. And in that effect, right? Like they're the Thunder, but they're like, no, we're not. We don't. Not the Red Hulk, no. Like that. So we're gonna know a lot more about what's the state of the MCU is at the end of Captain America 4 that is gonna inform why the Thunderbolts have an asterisk next to it. I feel like that's probably more likely what it is than like Thunderbolts and then there's a colon and some mystery title that they're not telling us because it will be a spoiler of some kind. And it also kind of lines up with they're the government sanctioned version of what comes closest to an Avengers team. And that's what would tie into the whole idea that the Avengers are not available, because it was hard enough for them to keep the Avengers under control that, if you remember, Thunderbolt Ross was not in favor of. He was the one who was the Secretary of State who introduces the Sokovia Accords in the MCU. So I'm thinking that's how the pieces probably all tie together. And that would make sense. In my opinion, I think that ties up all of the loose theories and potentially gives us a more in-universe reasonable connection than something more fantastical that is a spoiler that we are not aware of. Like it's all the context clues. I mean, we know Nova's coming, Sentry's going to be there, Silver Surfer's going to be there, but I do not think it's like a very literal reference, the asterisk to Sentry, even though that'd be a cool reference. But I don't know, John. I mean, do you feel like there's any credibility to that? I feel like the pieces line up if that is indeed the way that they're going.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Well, sounds cool, you know what? On that note, what else sounds cool to me is the quick hits, John. So why don't you hit that music and we'll roll into the quick hits, shall we? Let's switch up the graphics.
Already set up. Let's
go. Let's hit the quick hits, shall we? So to start off with, Ke-Huy Quan recently, has that movie Love Hurts out in theaters. You can go see it. It's not getting kind reviews, but nonetheless, Ke-Huy Quan, first came to notoriety over his role in the Temple of Doom, one of the OG Indiana Jones movies that people did love, not like the last two that really were not loved. So he recently was talking about how Harrison Ford calmed him down when he was crying on the set of Temple of Doom, because of course he was, nothing but a young little, young scrawny kid.
Little dude.
That was his old character. So this is what he said: when we shot this sequence, I was so scared and I cried. I remember Harrison Ford kneeling down in front of me and asking me if I was okay. He said, and I'll never forget this, Key, I want you to remember, I will never hurt you. And if you just imagine that in Harrison Ford's voice, I'd be pretty, settled after that.
I'd probably start crying even more. Just because he's so genuine with it,
That's the thing about Harrison Ford. Everything he says is comes from a place. That dude has no care in the world to pretend to say something that he doesn't believe in. He's like, I don't got enough time for that. Like, that's literally his attitude. I mean, that's the attitude he's bringing to all the Captain America marketing. That's what he's been doing his entire career.
I think it was at the Oscars. It might have been something else. It might have been the Dial of Destiny premiere. I don't remember. But Kehu Kwan like went up behind him and he like, I don't know if he was like trying to scare him. He was just like came up behind him, and he's like, Harrison, hey, how are you? And then you just see like Harrison Ford, as we literally just talked about, like very dry. His face and his body just lights up, and it's just like, I remember you. Like, I remember when you were like this. And he was like, and then it was just like this beautiful, very beautiful moment. And then like Kehu Kwan is like, I remember this man when we were, and then it was like this whole like beautiful. But it just goes to show that like, yeah, Harrison Ford can be like the dry, sarcastic dude, but he's also like a pretty genuine dude. So like definitely respectable. So
yeah,
it's just that's just always great to see.
It's not often that you come across somebody who's had this level of success that he has, and he continues to be very true to himself in the way that he was all the way at the beginning of his career. So clearly he has not let success get to his head, and he's kind of like, Keanu Reeves. He lives a life the only way he knows how. Lucy Hale is set to star in a romantic comedy, Princess, from the Cooler screenwriter Frank Hanna. K5 International has boarded the film as its international sales agent. This is another piece of news, I think, connected to the European film market. John, what are your thoughts on this? Are you going to be looking forward to this new Lucy Hale project?
Nope.
Cool. Moving on to the next story. Anthony Mackie, of course, we've been talking about him this whole time. He's a busy man because not only will he be filming Avengers Doomsday later this year, but he's also going to be simultaneously filming Apple TV Plus's 12-12-12, which is, I believe, a new TV show, if I'm correct. So this is what he had to say. Now, Kari, Skoglund and Jamie Dornan and him will be in Budapest this summer. And then he says, I'll be going back and forth between Budapest and London filming the two projects, because I'm pretty sure Avengers is filming in the UK, as we talked about, so London and Pinewood Studios and such, and then in Budapest is probably where he's going to be filming 12-12-12.
Budapest.
Do you think between Captain America 4 and him filming Avengers Doomsday 12-12-12, is this finally like the year of Anthony Mackie? Like he's really on the up.
Let's hope so. Like, I love Anthony Mackie. He's great. So good for him. 12-12-12 sounds like a very dumb title, but it doesn't even roll off the 12. It's just like, it's not like 11-22-63 rolls off the tongue. Very awkward, but like outside of that, I mean, Apple TV has pretty goated projects. Like 99% of what they make in terms of television has just been bangers. Like, I have heard nothing but amazing things about Apple TV.
Apple TV Plus, the quality is top notch.
The movies are not. Yeah, they've got Killers of the Flower Moon and all that, but they've also done like Argyle and Wolves, which I heard was not very good. So there is that as well. But I feel like all of you had The Morning Show. Dickinson was an interesting and experimental idea. For All Mankind, you keep telling me to watch it. I'm gonna watch it eventually, I swear. So I've heard there was the show that was like about Abraham Lincoln or something. I think Tobias Menzies was in it. I heard that was really good. I've just heard nothing but great stuff. So like, hopefully that's another great addition. Severance, isn't that Apple TV Plus?
Yep, so, Apple TV Plus.
So
a new
that's
episode
another
drops
one
tomorrow, guys.
Yeah, so heard nothing but great things about that. So it's, yeah, I will say Apple TV, they're good with the TV stuff. Like, they're like the antithesis of Netflix, I think.
I mean, Netflix still has great TV, but it's not like everything is great. Netflix just throws too much shit at you and hopes it all sticks. Whereas Apple TV Plus has got much better quality control, similar to HBO, except like the budgets on everything Apple TV does is like way up there. Like, so I think the overall quality might even be more consistent in HBO now, but it's a smaller sample size. So I don't think anybody's going to catch up to HBO's accolades anytime soon, but they're up there. So yeah. But you know what? I think 12-12-12 sounds a lot better if you say it in French as douze douze douze. That does roll off the tongue a lot more easily than 12-12-12, because like that wow sound is hard to say 3 times in a row. But speaking of what's hard to say, I mean, I saw this and I don't know how I feel about it truly. I probably want to go in and read the whole interview to kind of get the full sense of the context of what he was talking about. But Michael B. Jordan was interviewed in GQ, and he said that, when he was asked about whether you would work with Jonathan Majors again, he talked about the troubled actor, saying, "I'm proud of his resilience and his strength through it all. That's my boy." So he's clearly sticking by him. I mean, again, he's worked with him before in multiple projects. They were in the last Creed movie together.
Wasn't Jonathan Majors originally supposed to be in Sinners, but then with everything he had to didn't he get fired, and then Michael B. Jordan had to play a dual part? Wasn't that like the thing or something?
I'm not sure. Maybe that is. I have not.
I remember
I
remember talking about it on the show, and I thought you or Liz said that, because I remember that being. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. So I don't want to say anything. So
yeah, I have no idea if that was ever a thing. Maybe you guys can let us know in the chat. But I mean, hey, overall, as far as his stance on this, it's to each their own. Like, he's worked with him, he knows him better than most of us know Jonathan Majors, right, on a personal level. So if he's willing to stick by him, then he must have his reasons, and fair enough. Like, I personally think that it would be difficult to sell a movie with Jonathan Majors in it, even if Michael B. Jordan was the one to be there, like, making the case for it, because on a commercial level, Jonathan Majors still has a lot of hurdles to clear. I think the public perception is still very tainted. Even if Magazine Dreams is great, I think there's still like pending. I think there's new allegations recently, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, don't take my word for it, but he's not quite out of his the troubled period of his recent time. So hopefully if he is indeed working his way back to prominence and making up for all the wrongs that he had done, then maybe he'll deserve a chance to be in a big time studio picture again. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And even if Michael B. Jordan is on his side, unless he's self-funding a movie, I don't think Michael B. Jordan's going to convince any studio head to let Jonathan Majors be in a big time project with him anytime soon. Not Kevin Feige, not anybody over at Warner Brothers. So I don't think that will happen. Kevin Davis in the chat now. Hello, Kevin Davis, and hello, Elite Easy. Elite Easy saying, "I hear he's trying to get pregnant. Where's my static crush?" I don't know what you're talking about, Elite Easy, but so I'll just let that sit there.
What the fuck? Hold on.
And then Kevin Davis saying, "Jonathan Majors, talented actor. People don't easily forgive or forget easily in Hollywood." That's true, but then again, after Tom Cruise jumped on Oprah's couch, he did manage to get himself back in the game, and here we are today with the Mission Impossible franchise. But moving on, John, since these are the quick hits, The Accountant 2, starring Ben Affleck, John Bernthal, and J.K. Simmons, coming to our theaters near you, or near us, or wherever you have theaters, on April 25th. New official images are out. The other day, I think we got a really cool inside look. Now we have more pictures. Ben Affleck did the first Accountant what feels like 10 years ago. I'm just like surprised it's taken them that long to do a sequel. I know the first movie was sort of an indie film that kind of, just blew up in terms of just the amount of success it had and the positive reception. It had an interesting twist at the end, which in a lot of movies could come across as like, oh, seriously? But in that movie, somehow they made it work. Like, somehow I wasn't cringing at it.
I really like Gavin O'Connor as a director. Like, he's not like one of the super big names, although he was considered for Suicide Squad 2 back when it was called Suicide Squad 2. But I think he's a really good director. Just everything I've seen from him is just really like Miracle is another one he did, which was fantastic.
Yep.
And you got fucking Batman and the Punisher. Like, come on. And as you said, Jameson, so like it just seems like a really good. I mean, The Accountant was just the first one was just brilliant. I mean, I wish like we didn't get this like 10 years later, but like because I remember seeing this
a lot of times.
I remember seeing this in college, I think. So I love the first one. I just hope that's not like the thing of like sequels that take too long. It's gonna suffer from that. So I hope that it like doesn't suffer. So, but with that, I mean, Ben Affleck's great, John Bernthal, fucking great. Like, it's essentially the Punisher and Batman with guns. Like, how can you go? It looks, and the thing is, what I like about it, it looks very different from the first one. Like I like how like you see like kind of the quote unquote Clark Kent side of this character. Yes, he's a hitman and does like all this bad stuff, but at the same time, like he's this like kind of nerdy, dorky character, and I don't like speak to us in the comments.
He's a righteous hitman, right? Like that was the whole thing in the first movie.
I think so, but I think I don't know, like I've heard mixed things in terms of the autism like angle. Some people said it was like well done, but others say it's like, oh, they're doing the autism as a superpower kind of thing. I've heard both sides. I'm just curious what others think. As someone who actually has autism, I'm curious to know your thoughts on that. But I felt it was a very great movie, and I'm very excited for the sequel.
Yeah, it looks great so far. A lot of the same, characters and actors, of course, back for the second one. I just hope that, they make a good movie, because it's very difficult a lot of times to take what was the first Accountant, which was like this very unique take on, to kind of flip the script on the kind of story that you would expect. It's a hitman story, but except it's done in this really unique way. And that was really a selling point. I'm like, at the end of that movie, the novelty kind of was like, okay, we're past that now. So I'm like, now that they can't lean on the novelty of the concept, like where do you go with the story? Because now you have to kind of go in a different direction. You can't just do the Accountant again as the Accountant 2, right?
Right.
So
it's doing something different with it.
You have to. So and so far it looks like that's what they're doing, and I'm interested in seeing more of that dynamic between Jon Bernthal and Ben Affleck's character. So of course, if you haven't seen the first movie, spoiler alert, but they turn out to be brothers, so long lost or long estranged or whatever. But hopefully we'll get to see more of that dynamic. And of course, you can see Ben Affleck's character is back to being his very meticulous self in this movie. So yeah, his character's on the spectrum, and I'm excited. I mean, it doesn't look like Anna Kendrick is back, so unless she has a cameo in there, but we'll see how the movie turns out. Moving on to the next story, though, in the meantime, John, Muhammad Ali Amazon series, The Greatest, cast Amin Joseph at Sonny Liston. Excited?
I don't know if I'm gonna watch this, but cool.
I mean, look, Amazon's killing it lately. The amount of big TV shows and movies they've got on the deck, and they're big franchises. I looked at a graphic the other day, and it was insane. Not only the usual suspects.
Shut the fuck up! You can't just give us that headline. Keep talking about the other thing, and not what the fuck is that?
Taylor
title?
Lautner, Werewolf Hunter TV series in development at Amazon MGM Studios.
Wait a minute. Okay, so
note his name is in the title. Taylor Lautner.
Hang on.
Werewolf Hunter.
What are they doing? Are they doing is this like a Ghost Adventures thing, but it's with werewolves and they're actually tracking quote unquote real werewolves? Or are they gonna do like that Jean-Claude Van Damme show that lasted for like one season, where he's like playing a fictionalized version of himself in like a world where like werewolves are real and he actually hunts them? Like, because the second one sounds way better.
This sounds like a Bear Grylls thing. Apparently this is a very self-aware wolf TV series. So let me read out the paragraph here. Actually, you know what? Forget the paragraph talking about the show. Let's read the what the log line is, right? Which is more than just a log line. It's more of a synopsis. After wrapping the final Twilight film, Taylor Lautner vanished from the spotlight. Fans speculated, tabloids theorized, but the truth is wilder than fiction. Taylor wasn't just taking a mental health break. He was preparing for his real calling. Taylor Lautner, Werewolf Hunter. Playing himself, Taylor is drawn into a secret society of werewolf trackers who need his unique expertise as he navigates his double life, Hollywood actor by day, supernatural warrior by night. Taylor must wrestle with the ultimate irony, fighting the very creatures that made him famous. Between saving the world, reviving his career, and falling in love, he faces the ultimate question: what happens when your biggest role becomes your greatest enemy? This is so stupid,
sounds
but it's
like
gonna
the
be fun.
dumbest thing ever. It sounds like an even dumber version of that show Hunters, like the Nazi thing, with Logan Lerman. It sounds like an even dumber version of that, and I fucking love this. So it's like a fictionalized thing. It's like it's ironic.
It's like it's the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Yeah, and I love that. And like Taylor Lautner, I'm just gonna say, dude's a horrible actor. Like bro can't act. Like, I'm sorry, like I've seen him in not just Twilight, but in other shit too, and the man just can't act. But it's fine. Like, he seems like a cool dude. Like, he seems nice enough and fine, and he was a pretty boy and all that shit. But like, this sounds so dumb, but I love it. But it sounds
like
it
dumb
works.
in the best way possible. Somehow I'm like excited about this because I would just watch because I just want to see the trailer though. If the trailer is terrible, then I will maybe not tune in. But yeah, dude is desperate at this point, says Ron. Great abs, says Illy Easy E. The Watcher is talking about, so what movie is gonna get Taylor out of the werewolf stereotype like Robert with the Sparkles vampire? Oh, okay. The Watcher, this is not meant to be taken seriously, apparently. This is a very meta. I can only imagine the trailer, how the trailer is gonna like lean into the whole Twilight thing, where he's a movie star in the show. Except, so it's like it's sort of like slightly elevated, like it's
like he's
so a lot of
movie
elements are gonna
star.
feel real. Look, he's literally playing himself in there. Taylor Lautner as Taylor Lautner. It's like Nicolas Cage playing Nick Cage. It's great. You know what? This might be the most surprisingly amazing story of the day so far. Anyway, Jeremy Strong is set to star in Boys from Brazil Netflix series from The Crown's Peter Morgan. Interested?
Nope.
Moving on. All right.
Just
Here's
watch the original movie.
Exactly. This is the last quick hit of the day. Shogun meets Squid Game. Netflix has unveiled an epic samurai battle series in their 2025 Japan slate, and it's called Last Samurai Standing. Now here's what the show is going to be about. When most people think about samurai, they think about this very glamorous period in Japanese history, says Netflix Japan content head Kata Sakamoto. But what a lot of people don't realize is that towards the end of the Edo period, the samurai lost a lot of their glamour and their power. Last Samurai Standing is about what would happen if these warriors, the toughest and the best in Japan, all of a sudden became common people and had to fight for their lives. Think Shogun meets Squid Game. What do you think?
Could be cool. I don't think I'll watch it, but it sounds cool.
I mean, it's interesting. It's a period drama, so it's not a reality show. It features 300 samurai warriors gathered at Tenryuji Temple in Kyoto. Maybe I said that wrong. I apologize. Lured by the promise of 100 billion yen prize, the series stars Junichi Okada, who serves as lead actor, producer, and action choreographer. You know what? Sounds interesting. Very much feels like exactly what they say, Shogun meets Squid Game. So it's basically a Squid Game, but with samurai and like 100 billion yen. So I don't know. If they do it well, I'd be there for it. I'd be there. Enterprising Lautner, Werewolf Hunter. You either die a possessive stalking simp, or you live long enough to become a washed actor. Ouch. Ouch. He's done a few good things. Come on now. Let's not be so harsh on him. Ron is like, I'm confused. Do samurais time travel to our time and compete in Squid Game? No. Apparently, this game takes place in the period that they're from, where all of a sudden they're no longer samurai, but they no longer have a special standing in society. They're just not like normal people, but they have the skills of a samurai, and now they're competing in this competition to win 100 billion yen. I mean, I honestly am kind of tired of that whole like every spin-off. If I had a dime for every spin-off,
if you had a piece of yen
of every spin-off or like rip-off, to be more accurate, of the Squid Game concept, whether it's a reality show or another TV show, whether it's Korean or American, whether it's on Amazon Prime as Beast Games or Netflix, I swear to God, I'd be rich by now, because it's just insane the amount of like bad spin-offs that have come from that show. I just hope that this one takes the concept and does something new and unique and different, and hopefully that's worth watching with it, because even Squid Game season 2 wasn't nearly as good as the first season, man. I'm hoping that the final season that comes out later this year, we got a date now in June, I think. Hopefully that does it justice, because that show otherwise could,
I mean, as Ron always says,
end on you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And on that note, we have lived long enough to see ourselves become the villain of Quick Hits. Let us know what you thought about all the stories today. Captain America 4, we're going to review it. We're going to talk about what the audience reactions are. Of course, the reviews are out. And remember to fight for justice, as Ron always says. Hit that like button.
You mentioned
guys
justice.
have not liked this nearly enough. Hit the like button. We're not done yet. We're not even close to being done yet. Hit the notification bell
oh
if you're
God,
new.
another hour.
Get out of here. We won't be here another hour, but we are here for another episode of DCU Daily. So welcome on in. It's time to talk about some DC. We've got a lot of like smaller stories today. No like real big story, but lots of like interesting ones. Lots of interesting pieces. So of course to talk about them with me, I've got John as always. John, which of those small stories excited you the most today?
Not a ton, but like, I'm here. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, you know what? Let's dive into it, shall we? So the first story, of course, is a little bit of a how should I say it? It's kind of a follow up to what we were talking about yesterday on the show. I mean, I wasn't on the show, but you guys talked about it, Liz and John. We had a new costume designer sign on for the show, as well as a production designer. Now, of course, this is just late in news because they've already been on the show for a long time because the show is now going into production. So obviously they've been working on it for a while. It's just it only now has become public knowledge. So what else has become public knowledge today is that DC Studios has hired Daredevil, Deadpool, and Terminator Dark Fate stunt coordinator Philip J. Silvera to work on the Lantern show. So again, another key department head who's coming onto the show. And if you go off of his resume, a lot of people are excited about it. John,
2 out of
what
3
do you
ain't
think?
bad.
Yeah, no. What do you think about his addition to the TV show?
Could be cool. Like, I mean, the dude did great with the original Daredevil. He did amazingly with Deadpool. Well, I would say he did amazingly with Daredevil. Did pretty damn good with first Deadpool, and we don't talk about Dark Fate. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So that's cool. I don't know how much like hand to hand they'll be doing in a Lantern show because it's mainly like constructs and stuff. But like it is also a TV show, so they might be like pulling that shit back for certain areas. So like we'll see. So I'm curious how a stunt coordinator is gonna work. Like again, I don't know like specifics in terms of stunt coordinator stuff. Like I don't know if that's like all encompassing, not just like hand to hand or like anything like that.
It would cover basically a lot of it. Yes.
Yeah,
You're
like
right.
I know it
covers
would
all the
cover
stunts.
like
Yes.
weapons and like melee weapons.
Yes.
I don't know if it's just melee or if it's
No,
just
but
it's also special effects stuff as well.
Well,
But
anything that involves actors doing things like that, action choreography, that's all them. If it's VFX, that's VFX. Like that's different. Like if it's a CGI double doing it, I'm sure the stunt team is going to inform some of that action, some of those action beats, so that they know. I mean, they might even give them reference, so they'll record themselves doing the moves, and then the CGI team can then go in, the VFX team can go in and work on that and then make a CGI version of that essentially. So that's usually you have live action reference, right? So he would be a big part of that. And thank you, DC Enterprising. DC Comics is the elixir of fandom life. Indeed it is. And yes, sir, it is DC time on the show. So I'm excited for this. Of course, they are filling out the talent behind the cameras with a lot of really, really, really good people who have done a lot of good work in the genre, not only just the superhero genre, but the larger sci-fi genre that the DC, the comic book movies are usually a part of. So you're bringing in people who are experienced in this sort of storytelling. So that to me says more than anything about like the quality of the show, like that they want it to be. This is quickly becoming one of the most high profile shows that is in development today, and you can tell that they're not cutting any corners behind the scenes. So I appreciate that. I mean, Jalen is in the chat now and he says, and DC news, damn it, I'm late. But you're just in time, actually, Jalen. If you want to go back and you
this
can be
first
kind
story,
of
my guy, first story. So we're
first
good.
story in the DC news section of the show. If you want to go back and check out the Captain America 4 coverage, any of the quick hits, you're welcome to do so. But we are firmly in the midst of DC. So moving on to the next story, John. I saw this come across my desk today, and I thought it was interesting. One of the fans out there, put together this artwork, which looks pretty interesting. It's from an artist who goes by Jonathan Rodriguez. Fun name, even better artwork of what could potentially be the DCU Dick Grayson and the Wally West Flash. What are your thoughts on this? Do you like these costumes? Very comic book accurate, but you can see the way they're contouring and got around like potentially the bodies of whoever actors take on the role. It looks like you're getting two different versions of the Flash costume there. One with a slightly the 3 part bolt, but the other one is like a simpler version. to me, it looks fantastic. Like, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is close to what we'll get in the actual movies?
I mean, it'll probably be worse because usually fans can think of better shit than what happens in the movies. So
Yeah. And by the way,
that's-
Ron, we do realize this is fan art.
This
We're
is
not
fan art.
saying this is actually like concept art. This is fan art. But I think sometimes some fan art deserves the attention and conversation because it could really capture the essence of what they're going for, right? So, but anyway, John, you were saying.
But yeah, I want to see Wally, but like, here's the thing. I just noticed this, like staring at it a little bit better without the thing in the middle, but can we stop with the fingerless gloves? Can we please stop with the fingerless gloves?
Yeah.
Like I like the Wally West suit. But I think both suits are great. I like the darker red of the Wally West suit and like the single lightning bolt rather than the multi lightning bolt that Barry has. But can we stop with the fingerless gloves? Because people, you need to understand that these guys have a secret identity. They don't want to know that Wally West and the Flash are the same person. So leaving your fingerprints everywhere is not the way to go. Now, however, I will say the Flash is a little more forgivable, but it's because he can like vibrate his hands to like not leave fingerprints everywhere. So at least I'll give them that. But even then, the Spider-Man did it, like with his suit, with his proto suit in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Gambit does it, although Gambit is less of a, because like, do the X-Men even really have secret identities? Like, whatever. But it's just like, guys, stop with the fingerless gloves that they leave fingerprint. And I will say fingerless gloves kind of look stupid. Not gonna lie. Never liked the way that fingerless gloves work on a superhero costume. So like, yes, exactly. I like the suit, but it's not for Damian Wayne's, Robin. I will say I do like Damian Wayne's suit. That was probably the best part about him for years, because God knows it wasn't the character. But I mean, I love Tim Drake's suit. But I don't think they're gonna go with Tim Drake. I don't know how they're gonna make that work. I don't know if they're gonna make him Red Robin.
Yeah.
I pray to God they don't use Drake, because that was fucking stupid. Like, again, secret identity, they exist. Goddamn.
Yeah.
By
the way,
these look
the DC
great outside the
fandom is
fingerless,
here.
but like, I don't know how much they'll
Yeah.
work for like certain stuff.
I think, well, it will ultimately depend again how they go about setting up these characters and what the design, because like in the Flash movie you could tell that suit felt very like much spandexy, and I can tell you from just looking at every James Gunn movie that he has done in the superhero genre, he's not a fan of spandex suits. That's why the Superman suit is not like a spandex suit. That's why he didn't want something that was so form-fitting and had fake abs and muscles on it. Even though the Henry Cavill suit looks amazing, but clearly the new suit from Superman feels more functional, right? Like, you see, if he's gonna be walking around in the world and wanting to be comfortable, you don't want to be dressed up like they were in like the first season of Star Trek, the Next Generation. It's like once you get to season 2 or 3, I think they change up the suits and they become a little more functional. It's not like just one big, overall that they're wearing that's skin tight. Instead, they break them into pieces that feels much more functional. And the Star Trek series since then have all followed suit in that, which I think creates a suit that is much more realistic. And then, one of you guys were commenting on the Robin cape. I do like the design of the cape. Very, very.
I love the yellow and
arcane-based.
black. I do
Yeah.
like the black on the back and then the yellow in the front. And I like the short sleeves. I think, even though bullets, but I still like the look. I still like the look. It looks
It's not an
great.
essential organ. I mean, besides, like, do you think the sleeves would really
You
stop
have like
the bullet?
fucking arteries and shit in there, right?
But
They
like,
could
would
get-
the bullet, would sleeves stop the bullet from punching through? Is what I'm saying, right? Like, it's not really.
I mean, if
unless
it's
an armored
Kevlar,
suit.
yeah.
Yeah, but like, if it's
Well, I mean,
how many
Tom
of these
Drake doesn't
superheroes-
exist. I think you're thinking of Tim Drake. Easy. But it's just like, yeah, it's amazing
Yeah.
how it's like, God, I just want Tim Drake as Robin. Like, we got Dick Grayson as Robin. I know it was in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and they were that great, but and I know Tim Drake showed up in Titans, but Titans sucked. But like, because here's the thing: in terms of Robins, the major ones are Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, and Damian Wayne. And it's cool they're bringing in Damian Wayne because they're actually having like the biological father-son dynamic, which is interesting. And I will say I do like Damian Wayne's development in the comics. I know that's like a hot take, but I like how he did develop over the course of many issues and all that, and like Rebirth, he became more of his own character. They ruined it, but then they brought it back again. So, you know, I just what I would like to see, I would like to see a I've said this before, like, and it seems like they're doing that because Dean Lorey did mention Wally West in Creature Commandos, one of the dead heroes. I hope he's the Flash. We get someone new. We don't get like Ezra Miller or Grant Gustin or anybody like that back. We get Wally West. We get a new actor in the role. And then we're going to get Jon Stewart as the main Green Lantern. Awesome. Great. And then we can get like a bunch of ladder heroes like that are technically more popular. Like, I'd like to see Tim Drake more. Like, I here's the thing in terms of like the Bat family, in terms of stuff that's established already in Brave and the Bold, I want to see Dick Grayson as Nightwing. I want to see Jason Todd dead. Like, he hasn't come back as Red Hood just yet because I feel like that should be its own movie. Like Red Hood, they should adapt Red Hood for a movie. I think that would be really cool. I understand Under the Red Hood is exceptional and they should stick to that in animation, but I think they could make that into a movie. I think that would be really good. And then have Tim Drake like be his own hero because obviously they're bringing in Damian Wayne, so have him be Red Robin, have him be like use the name Savior but not have it be the character because I feel like that was dumb. But Savior was like kind of a cool thing. And then maybe have like one or two like lesser characters. Like maybe Barbara Gordon Batgirl, but I would prefer to see Cassandra Cain done better. And I like Batgirl. Well, I like Barbara better as Oracle. And then maybe like Batwing or something like that. Yeah, give it like don't keep the black man down. Throw him in there too. So, have like 4 or 5 Bat family characters. So it's like we have like that established, kind of thing that they're going for here. So, yeah, I think Nightwing, Nightwing, whoever, because Tim Drake has gone through like 700 names. Have Tim Drake as his own hero, whether it's Red Robin or something else. Damian Wayne, Cassandra Cain, and maybe one other one. And I think that would be a really good base. And then you can grow from there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they clearly want to bring in all those characters. I just hope that they don't give us every single one of them. Like you said, they're going to need to find a way to differentiate them too, because once they do bring them all in, what you don't want to have happen is these characters are only sticking around for like, basically being like different shades of color in the same color, box of color pencils, right? Like you want these characters to not just look different, but also feel different enough that they all have a reason for existing at the same time. So, and then in the comics that's true, but hopefully they'll try to like, do that same kind of differentiation in the live action universe. I, for one, do appreciate the golden boots. If you know,
Yep.
the golden boots in Flash, which I still remember. We were talking about Grant Gustin yesterday. Remember like the DC fandom you guys are talking about in the chat? The second DC fandom, the big Flash announcement was that he's going to have golden boots. What? Like it was, oh God. That was, yeah, the first DC fandom was good. The second one, not so much. They were advertising Cam Newton hats. Anyway, director Francis Lawrence has shared an update on the status of the DC Constantine sequel. So we have a quote here. This is from the account Gunverse. But he was recently asked about this, and so this is what he had to say. I will say we are closer than ever to being able to do a sequel, which is a great thing. And Akiva, as in Akiva Goldsman, Keanu Reeves, and I, as in director Francis Lawrence, are super, super excited about it. We have a great idea. We have gone through a bunch of the comics over the years and looked at things. I will say that there's probably grains from things that we are pulling, but in truth, most of it is just coming from the three of us, loving the character, loving the world, having it sort of in the back of our minds for 20 years and just kind of percolating on ideas and stories and characters that we love and ideas we love. To me, this sounds like while they're saying they're closer, it's still not a script or anything.
It's like we're 1% closer, but we're still at like the 2% mark.
I'm like, does this make you any more excited that we might actually be getting a Constantine 2, or does this tell you like they're really still just throwing ideas back and forth and they don't have anything concrete yet?
Yeah, it's just, I feel like this is a thing of like, this still kind of exists, but it's also pre-James Gunn that they announced this. So I don't know if it's like actually going to be a thing. I think they'll just be like, I think Francis Lawrence is just going to keep saying, oh, it exists. And then when James Gunn is ready to be like, okay, yeah, this, like, try to go forward with this, then he'll be like, okay, cool, we're going to have a script ready, and then it'll be confirmed. So, like, I would assume Elseworlds, because it was established way beforehand, unless they like tweak it that it's gonna be a sequel, but not really a sequel. It's gonna be incorporated into the. I don't think they're gonna do that.
If they mention it, it's gonna be canon. Otherwise, it's not canon thing that James Gunn's doing. But anyway, yeah. The more you read the quote, the less it feels concrete that this thing is actually happening. We've talked about Constantine 2 potentially happening for a good year now. I feel like. So obviously something is going on behind the scenes. We just don't know if there's a script actually written or if they're still sort of like the director himself, Francis Lawrence, said that they've just been like, throwing ideas back and forth. It's been percolating. So let the movie percolate a bit longer until we get something more concrete. In the meantime, there was a report out there saying that the WALLER series is set to begin production this fall. And it comes from your favorite In-Snyder, the In-Snyder himself, Jeff Snyder, saying that the DCU WALLER series is reportedly set to begin production later this year in the fall. What do you think about that, John?
Nope. Nope.
That was the longest sigh we have ever had on the show. Hit that like button for that sigh if you guys haven't already. There's so many of you guys watching, but not enough like button, in the chat.
Nope.
So hit that like button. We do appreciate it. I, for one, to look at this and think that there's some level of truth to it, but I just don't know where the source for that truth is coming from. Like, Jeff Snyder has been not so reliable of late, and while he does hit on occasion, it's hard for me to believe that what he's saying here is exactly true, because James Gunn himself will tell you until the scripts are ready, they won't really decide what to do next with it, right? Like, it's almost like he holds up everything on a project. Like, they're not going to start building sets, they're not going to start scouting locations, they're not going to cast anybody, they're not going to like give the thing a budget, not until the scripts are done. So if the scripts aren't done, which the last you heard from James Gunn last year was, the scripts are still being worked on, they're not quite where he wants them to be yet. I mean, I'm sure in the months that have gone on since, he might have finished the script, or whoever's working on it might have gotten approvals from James Gunn. But if you were to believe on a reasonable timeline, yes, it would make sense if it goes into production later this month. I just don't know if I believe that the In-Snyder reporting is exactly true.
It's not.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Jeff Snyder.
I don't think he hates James Gunn, by the way, Jeff Snyder. But I mean, again, the quality of reporting has been a little wishy-washy of late. So take it for what you will. But I mean, if it was to go into production later this year, John, do you think it ends up filling one of those untitled spots in the DC slate next year or the year after?
Possibly, but you also did say that those were specifically movie spots. So
you know what? You were right. They are movie spots. So then, yeah, this would be it doesn't need to have a date on a calendar. A TV show, it's gonna go on HBO. Like, they can fucking decide wherever the hell to drop it. They don't need to put on a calendar, because the only programming that makes it onto HBO is HBO programming, not like from other studios. So Yes, you are right that this would not fall into that category, but if that's the case, we have Lanterns coming out next year. We have Clayface. We have Supergirl. Do we have another project that's set to come out in 2027 or 2026?
So you said Supergirl, Clayface, Lanterns.
I think there's only 3, right? So if they were to start
3,
producing it this fall,
maybe Creature Commandos season 2, but that's
that
like
might be a really
that's a mighty
quick.
big if. That would be a little bit
Yeah.
of a quick turnaround. But like, let me just throw that in there. So yeah, that's like an if, but it's still on the table because I did have a theory that like that secret because like I feel like a lot of animated shows are doing this where they greenlight 2 seasons. Cape Crusader and Velma were the biggest ones, where they greenlight like a set number of episodes, or like they set 2 seasons because it's cheaper to work on that than a season and then renew it and then so I secretly think that like they greenlit 2 seasons and they've been working on it, plus they have all the character models now, so there's not like,
Right.
I'm not saying it's like easier. It's of course like animation's a very hard thing to do and very hard thing to make it look good, especially with like no budget that like animation is getting now. So I think that it's going to be a quicker turnaround than season 1, if I were to say. So I think we're going to be getting a little bit quicker than the initial announcement of 2023 and then getting that at the end of 2024. So again, my theory, but even then not as like, I mean, it's still like about a year and a half, so like we'll see. But I'm just
Yeah.
shooting like, again, I'm not saying it's a for sure thing, I'm just saying that's my idea of what could happen.
Yeah. By the way, the Watcher Sergeant Rock hasn't been confirmed by James Gunn or any official source. It's been even the deadline report that we went over a few months ago wasn't exactly saying that it's confirmed. It's like they're in talks. So we have never gotten like full confirmation that Sergeant Rock is actually happening, but we'll see. And by the way, Jalen, I think as far as when we'll next get a big update, I feel like Comic-Con is probably where that will happen, because that's the next big public event where James Gunn will be there to answer questions, and will be asked questions not only by the audience members, but obviously by whoever's moderating the panel, and they will end up asking about those things, because that's what happened at New York Comic Con. So where James Gunn gave us a lot of little tidbits, even though he didn't give us much, but he gave us a lot of small updates that ended up turning into bigger projects. So with that in mind, I feel like that would be the next big opportunity, San Diego Comic-Con, but then also maybe CinemaCon might be where we end up getting some things, but that's usually not for the public. So I don't think they're going to give out any big details that we would be aware of unless they leak. So that's probably going to be more about Superman, Supergirl, the movies that are officially in production and set to come out soon this year and the next. So as far as when we're going to get a next big slate announcement or questions and answers, that's probably Comic-Con. So we'll just have to wait for that. And My Adventures with Superman isn't really DCU, so it's more Elseworlds, but it does count as on the Slater projects. I just think when they talked about the DCU doing 2 movies and 2 TV shows a year, that was only the DCU. So My Adventures with Superman wouldn't count under that. The Watcher saying Sergeant Rock will be confirmed soon, and the Elite Easy saying Lucas trying to make that queer money back. Well, not every movie is meant to be a financial success, or a commercial success rather. So I think that movie was never quite gonna be a total commercial success.
Did that even get released?
It's not like he
theaters?
paid for it out of his own pocket. I don't think so. It was a limited release, right? I don't know if it ever got a wide release. So and yeah, I know, Jalen, Comic-Con is far away. It is July, but you know what? We're waiting for Superman. So right around the time Superman comes out, like just keep that in your mind. Superman comes out on the same time. You got Fantastic Four, Superman, Jurassic World, as well as Smurfs coming out in the same month, and Comic-Con. So you can enjoy all of those things in July. Trust me, it will sneak up on you.
It had a limited theatrical release in the United States in November. Yeah. And it made $4.8 million on a $48 million budget. So it made 10% of its budget. Whoops.
Yeah. Yep. And then Enterprising saying, hopefully they announce the Authority. I really want to see them walk on the cast of the Authority onto the stage at Comic-Con. That will be a big time mic drop kind of a move. But until then, let's talk about Dynamic Duo, which is a confirmed project, John. Legendary comics artist Jock, who has worked on Batman, The Loser, Star Wars, and Ex Machina, previewed a sculpt at Swaybox Studios for Dynamic Duo. Of course, we know we're getting that movie in a couple of years' time. So, did you look at this? Like, is this something that you were excited about? I don't know if you're familiar with Swaybox.
Yeah, interesting idea. I knew of it because of what we've been covering with this, but is that the sculpt, or are they like censoring it with like a sway box?
I think they're censoring it here.
Okay.
I'm gonna see if I can find it.
Yeah, because you can kind of see the superhero pose a little bit. They're doing the bad on your knees pose. So, but yeah, looks. I don't think you. I mean, if the sway box thing is there, I can imagine that they didn't release the actual thing on the internet. So
yeah, it's a preview. You're getting a little bit of it in there. Like
getting a tiny bit, and that's it.
And you see a little bit of the arm, the shoulder. But I mean, again, the way they make movies at Swaybox is like very unique and different from most animation studios. So I don't know, like they're really teasing us here, but hopefully it gives us an idea of what we might get. I will bring this image up for a second because I think this might address a little bit of what, if you guys have no context as to what this Swaybox movie is going to look like, let me get off Microsoft Bing and show you this image. This, for example, is a sculpt for a character that then they would animate, using basically a mixture of animation and stop motion. So
animation, stop motion, puppetry, like kind of everything under the sun to create something truly unique, which is so fucking cool. It's really fucking cool. So I'm excited for that. It looks like we're going to be getting like a whole bunch of different, like almost like a practical, like Into the Spider-Verse of like so many different animation styles in one. That's what I feel like we're getting this, but like in a like more complete story rather than an animation style that represents each universe kind of thing. So yeah,
right.
that would be really awesome.
Yep. Yeah. By the way, great comment from Ron. I want to see the Batman and Robin actors standing next to each other at Comic-Con. Yep. And then the Watcher saying there's going to be several mic drop announcements at that event. So yeah, we'll see. We shall see. And then Jalen is saying, glad Jason and Dick are getting their time to shine on the big screen. Exactly. We are looking forward to that. All of those announcements would be, icing on the cake, on top of everything we're already getting from DC this year. So I'm excited for that. Of course, the fact that, whatever they're hiding here behind the Swaybox logo could eventually become, this is really exciting to me. That is just, I love it. I love the idea that it looks photoreal, dude. Like that's to me is what's exciting. Like not just photoreal in the sense it looks like it's animation but in real life. It's like like watching a movie like the Space Jam where you got animated characters running around with live action people, because the way it's lit and everything looks like
I would have thought of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but Space Jam was an interesting choice.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But that's what came to my mind. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this turns into for Dynamic Duo, and especially if it is going to have some sort of an impact on the DCU story, because I don't know if do we know for sure if this is part of the DCU or is this Elseworlds, because I don't know if that was ever confirmed by James Gunn. So that would be interesting to see just where Dynamic Duo fits in the bigger picture. But yeah, Jalen Harris saying, I love how DC is doing something different in terms of animation. Absolutely. I think that's what's exciting about it, is like the way they're going to work on this movie. It's going to look different than most animated movies you see every year. Enterprising saying, I really want an update on the Authority, some form of progress on the script. That's the thing, though. We don't even know if somebody's working on the script. We don't have a director attached. We don't have a writer attached. Nothing. Speaking of no scripts, Jaime Reyes himself, Joel Dueña, I think we covered a little bit of this before, but of course the Saturn Awards took place recently, and he was there. He's recently also been promoting the final part of Cobra Kai, of the final season of Cobra Kai that is set to come out.
I think it's coming out today. Well, now it's today for the East Coast. It's today because I think it's the 13th.
on Thursday. Yeah. Also, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man drops his next 3 episodes today, which we'll review on the next episode of the show. But we'll have MCU Weekly. But anyway, so for Blue Beetle,
I'm watching a lot of stuff today.
yeah, Shola Meriduenia was talking about how there are no scripts. I can say that they're working really hard on it. The whole DC fam has been really welcoming to Blue Beetle, so I'm really appreciative of that. After Superman, I'm hoping that the floodgates open, so I'll be ready for the call whenever it happens at DC. So he's just more hopeful than anything, and really, what he's telling us, in effect, is that this Blue Beetle animated series that he's been talking about isn't really set in stone yet. That they're maybe waiting to see how Superman does to maybe start getting some of these other projects on the road. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think we're gonna actually get this animated show anytime soon, or is he just gonna end up showing up in a different project, maybe Booster Gold or something else like that?
That's what I imagine. Like, I don't know if the animated show is actually going to happen, but he's probably going to show up in other projects. Just he's going to be in this. I mean, Gunn confirmed that. So, yeah.
Yep. By the way, I just love Blue Beetle. Is definitely visually and also just the story had a lot of heart. One of my favorite movies from the DCEU. So I'm really glad that they kept Sholo around, and I hope that they stick with the suit. I think that suit was really good. A lot of it was practically done. And of course, he fit the role perfectly. Even like Bruno Marquezine, George Lopez, and all the other actors who were in that movie. I would love for them to bring the whole family across.
Well, except the dad, because he's dead. But
Of course, yes, that is the one big twist. Unless the twist is that in this world he didn't die. Anyway, then that's how that movie. There's parts of it that are not canon anymore. But anywho, so Superman. This is one of the photos from when they were filming in Cincinnati, or I think it was Cleveland. No, it was Cincinnati last year. So, or no, it wasn't Cleveland. It was Cleveland. They were filming in Cleveland, and I don't believe we caught this while they were filming because we went through all of these images the whole summer of last year. But apparently, in one of these shots, I just found this to be a really cool moment. He's talking to one of the extras who seems. It seems like at least that he might be a blind gentleman here. So I'm not sure that's it, but it's just a really cool moment because if it is true, then again, seeing Superman interact with everyday folks, of course, we know in the movie he's gonna be like rescuing kids, maybe a squirrel, and he's not somebody who sees himself as like a godly figure, but rather just as the everyman. So another example of Superman just being Superman, John. Does this, kind of make you more excited for the movie itself? Do you think this was from an outtake, or do you think this this is maybe part of the scene, or this is in between takes?
I think this is more of an in between takes kind of thing. That's the vibe I'm getting. But even then, it's still cool. It just shows that David Cornsweet really is Superman. I mean, he learned how to fly, like for the part. He just actually literally learned how to fly.
Because we saw a picture of that the other day. He does it like Christopher Reeves. He must have seen the OG Superman movie, like like this pose, with the curl down the side. He did learn how to fly, so there we'll see that in the movie. Speaking of Superman, John, the Puppy Bowl. That was the big event meant to, not only promote Superman, but of course, more importantly, it was a dog adoption event. And it drew 12.8 million viewers for Animal Planet, which is a huge number for Animal Planet. I bet you most things at Animal Planet don't get anywhere close to 12.8 million viewers. Of course, that's still a fraction of what the Super Bowl got, which was well over 100 million. But it's great because it was cute as heck. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Did you see? I mean, you saw it, right? Like, you watched at least parts of it because I remember we talked about it. I was just watching. I'm like, this is cuteness overload, man. It's like every time they cut the commercial, I was like, I need to just like throw some water on my face because I feel like, and my cheeks were hurting because I was just smiling the whole time.
I just wish we got an actual fucking sneak peek at this goddamn movie, but
there were times in there where like in the corner they had like they were showing a flying crypto, which of course lines up with like the crypto dog toy that we got the other day. We looked at that, so I suppose crypto will fly in the movie. That's more or less official now. But they've been airing this Puppy Bowl since 2005, so this marked the 20th anniversary, I suppose, or I think they might have skipped a year or two. So But with that said, though, John, that's a pretty good audience. It's a sizable audience. Would you count this as a success? It is a small improvement over last year, only 2%, but 2% improvement is still an improvement. So, what are your thoughts on this? They did simulcast it across multiple channels too, so that's how they're counting the viewership here.
That's cool. Like, as long as it brings some attention to, like whole shelter dogs and adopt dogs if you're ready for that and all that. So, yeah. I think it's great.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, the internet could be a rough place for commentary on stuff like that. Look,
Why would there be disgusting comments on Twitter about it? Like,
I
what
just
can you gather from that? Like, how dare
I
they
just don't understand.
have dogs? Fucking Twitter, what a cesspool, and even greater of a cesspool.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the event was about getting more people to hopefully adopt a bunch of amazing doggos who deserved a home and a happy family that they could be a part of. And, that was one of the big missions. James Gunn posted a video thanking everybody for tuning in the day after the event. And, clearly it was a big success. And for him and Ozu to be a part of it, they showed up for a little bit towards the beginning of the event. It was cute. It was definitely well worth the watch. You can't not smile. Like I said, my cheeks were hurting. So, and they scheduled it so that if you were going to watch a Super Bowl, by the time you got to the Super Bowl, it was well, out of the way, because it was airing from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on the East Coast. And then the Super Bowl coverage really picked up at 6 o'clock. So you could have, gone the hour in the middle to like go use the bathroom, get your snacks filled. And then once you're done watching the Puppy Bowl, you can watch the Super Bowl. So I think this was,
Why would you want to, but
a lot of people did still, but I don't know for how long they were tuned in, because it became a blowout pretty quickly. But the Puppy Bowl, a great event for an amazing cause, and much like the Wicked sequel, you could say that was Superman for good, as Superman always is. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of DCU Daily. Of course, as always, we love having you guys around and watching and enjoying the show. Jalen is just looking for more news. This is all we could bring to you today. If there's any more concrete news about any of the movies and TV shows that are on the horizon, we will make sure to bring them to you. Unfortunately, we can only bring you the news that is out there. We cannot, make the news up, because then at that point we'll be making up bullshit, which is not what we do here on the show.
Yeah, that's we leave that for Jeff Snyder. So.
Or like any of the other scoopers. I mean, even they, like, I'm sure they try to get things right. But like you said, a broken clock is, right twice a day. So with that said, John, we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of DCU Daily. We have to talk about, of course, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, reviewing the next 3 episodes. I know it's a bit of a Marvel thing, but we will do MCU Weekly times DCU Daily. Of course, there's probably going to be more news from the world of Hollywood. And did you say there was a new episode of what other show has got a new episode coming out later today?
Cobra Kai, but I don't think we're going to be reviewing that on the show.
If there's any big news about it, I saw more quotes from Joel Duenia talking about it. We will get into that. Of course, the new Karate Kids movies on the horizon this year too. Yeah. Another big one that I'm excited about. So be sure to come back and check that out. DCU Daily comes back tomorrow, and we might even fit in a bit of a fan casting. If you guys have any ideas, drop them down in the comments below. As always, hit the like button. If you're new, we are here 5 days a week, so make sure to hit subscribe so you know when we are here. And if you hit the notification bell, then you will know when we go live or have a new video going up. We even have stuff on the weekend sometimes, so like, you never know, man. Stick around. Things are always moving and grooving. So, John, thanks for joining as always, and for your expert opinions and knowledge and soapbox rants and whatnot. Until next time, everybody, if you haven't already, hit the like button on the way out. We'll see you tomorrow on another episode of DCU Daily.
Cap nipple.